So at times it's very difficult to contain or rein in the horse of impatience. It may even breach or go close to intolerance. And at times, it reminds me of when I hear the older women speak of a woman in labor when the moon is weak. The Honorable Opposition Leader and his team provided respectful feedback on the budget presentation. And Madam Speaker, if I had my way, I would change the word opposition, because in its very essence, it does not lend itself to unity. The one Montserrat requires that we work in unity. If we are going to achieve our developmental aspiration of one Montserrat, a 5-star premium destination, a place where people want to live, work, study, visit, find fun and enjoyment, all of us in this honorable house, all the political leaders and our advisors, the people and friends of Montserrat living on Montserrat and abroad have a role to play. I had to respectfully remind an official in St. Lucia when I hope he did not intentionally cast disdain when he spoke of the capacity in Montserrat. I reminded him nicely that we are not just 4,000 persons, but tens of thousands strong, even if we do not all live on Montserrat. And so today, as I stand here, I want to reiterate our strong message and reminder from the start of this address to my brothers and sisters and friends of Montserrat living abroad, that we are counting on you to unite with us in building one Montserrat, a 5-star premium destination. It matters not what generation you come from, before Windrush or after, son, daughter, or grand, every boy, every girl, every man, every woman, we must unite and stand and build this Montserrat, our 5-star premium destination. It's not about the chatter. It's time to unite and work, bringing our talents, our gifts, our time, our treasure, and connections, old or young. Once you're yet alive, you have a contribution to make in building this one Montserrat, our 5-star premium destination. And if you cannot work, then watch and pray. This government cannot do it alone. We cannot forget our partners. We value your contribution and continue to record our gratitude as we work together to secure a sustainable future for our people. I want to echo and adopt all the thanks that our Honorable Premier extended yesterday. Yes, it is about people, partnership, progress, prosperity, for a secure, sustainable future. Madam Speaker, we are all in this House because of the people of Montserrat who placed the leadership and governance of the present, the future of this land, and our peoples in our hands as parliamentarians, advisors, and officers of this House. At this time in history, through the sovereign will of God, we have been called for such a time as this. And I want to, at this time, Madam Speaker, say thanks to the Almighty God for bringing us thus far, for considering us, and for considering me to work with others to lead his people. Madam Speaker, I rise today with gratitude and humility and a deep sense of duty to present my contribution on the Ministry of Buildings, Utilities, Infrastructure, Labor, Transportation, and Ecclesiastical Affairs. This is not an ordinary ministry. This is the ministry that touches every life. It is built that keeps the road passable when the storms come. It is built, oh Madam Speaker, that keeps our public buildings functional when time and weather take their toll and unsuitable designs fail. We fix it. It is built that carries the burdens of utilities, modernization, energy transition, and infrastructure resilience. It is built that stands at the hinge point between we manage and we transformed. And so, Madam Speaker, I rise not only to merely list projects, I rise to speak about, Madam Speaker, the work of this ministry over the past year, which has been guided by a clear objective to advance resilience, sustainability, and inclusive development across infrastructure, utilities, transport, and labor service. To make a difference, not just any difference, but a positive difference in the lives of our people. Last year, Madam Speaker, I speak of a rising and a building of faith, purpose, and national identity, and I stick, Madam Speaker, to those not moving. Building one Montserrat, a 5-star premium destination where people want to live, work, and study, visit, have fun, and find enjoyment. This year, I return with the same spirit, but with an even sharper emphasis: how we build, why we build, and whether what we build will endure. Because building is not simply about construction. Building is about stewardship. Building is about systems. Building is institutional strength, and building is about people. And if we build without systems, we still and constantly will repair. And if we build with our processes, Madam Speaker, we will not be able to evaluate and monitor and hold ourselves accountable. If we build without maintenance, we will constantly rebuild. If we build without capacity, we will constantly delay. Madam Speaker, if we build without integrity, we will constantly pay more than we should. And so, Madam Speaker, as we advance and strengthen and support, our commitment to partnerships remain. We build not alone, but with all the other ministries, as I've said before, and I know they're doing their part and will tell you. Madam Speaker, we also remain focused, as I said, on our 7 strategic priorities, which are clearly outlined, will drive economic sustainability, workforce development, citizen empowerment, a wholesome community, cohesive community, and long-term resilience, population retention, and growth. We will continue to advance government critical building maintenance and accommodation strategy, advancing critical utilities rehabilitation for safety and well-being, energy reliability, security and investment opportunities, strengthen critical transport infrastructure for safe, affordable, and reliable access, road rehabilitation, improvement and beautification, our labor force development and empowerment, and transport, ecclesiastical affair, least but not last, because that is the foundation on which we stand. Without God, we cannot do it. Promoting social well-being, a wholesome, cohesive community is what we aspire to do. Madam Speaker, as we speak to aviation maritime, our regulatory work, tariff capacity and building, we continue to strengthen the systems that keep our people access safe and compliant, recognizing connectivity is not a luxury, but a condition of development to facilitate safe, affordable, reliable access. Along with our port project, these are critical areas for our advancement. Madam Speaker, the port development project, on which I would not speak much, remains still a critical national investment. And during the past year, it required heightened oversight due to our challenges. And the government has taken a step to safeguard this position. And Madam Speaker, we will continue to keep you informed when it is so appropriate. The regulatory and safety capacity, Madam Speaker, of our Montserrat Port Authority continues to also play a critical role in maintaining port operations and supporting national connectivity, even as longer-term infrastructure solutions are being supported. The regulatory framework and safety capacity of staff has been strengthened, and this will continue. We continue as well to strengthen our labor administration, our workplace compliance, policy readiness, because fairness and productivity must be built into the structure of the economy. We are determined to build a healthy and wholesome Montserrat, a just and equitable society where there is dignity in work. Madam Speaker, we have embarked on implementing our minimum wage order 2025. This order, Madam Speaker, guarantees a national minimum wage. So a minimum wage order guarantees every worker is paid at least a basic and fair hourly wage for their labor. It sets a clear national wage floor of $12.50 per hour, so working people are protected from unduly low pay, and we move closer to a fair, wholesome Montserrat where decent work earns decent wages. The authority is from the Labor Code, Madam Speaker, and it allows the governor to advise cabinet to set minimum wage order, and therefore we operate on a legal basis. As we are aware, it took place on 1st of April or came into effect 2026. It is important, Madam Speaker, to have a national minimum wage. People say governments have been trying to get this done for years. And what's the history in brief? Madam Speaker, each government tried to advance it, but this sat there on the shelves. We know it can be challenging for employers, but we also care about our employers or small businesses. And so this process was launched from consultation in 2022, and the Labor Advisory Board later completed a review and it recommended $12.50, and that work helped shape what we have now implemented. On that, Madam Speaker, were persons from the unions, the private sector chamber, Small Business Association, labor. Madam Speaker, our people have been suffering for too long. So long, Madam Speaker, I recall a woman crying to me on the telephone, having have to work all day, get up in the night, and still being paid $5 per hour. Although it may not appear, we are confident that this will help to drive the economy more, as more money in the economy will go straight back to many of our small business owners. The Labor Advisory Board, I want to thank them, Madam Speaker, for they did the heavy lifting in the review and in their recommendation. Our workers, Madam Speaker, I know will benefit. And so studies have shown as well that the minimum wage results in increased productivity, efficiency, accountability. It assesses and shapes, Madam Speaker, what is done throughout a particular period of time. Responsibilities and duties are specific. And so, Madam Speaker, the employers are also geared to benefit. Small business is the backbone of our economy, and we are prepared to work with them. We have already created a practical employment compliance handbook for small businesses, owners, and operators, because we are here to work with them. Madam Speaker, we have already held workshops as well with small business owners, and we will continue. We are also invited and intend to undertake training for employees in work ethics, customer service, and customer care. We are all in this together. The worry, Madam Speaker, for many, although this law will safeguard our families and children, because when wages are too low, it affects our family stability. Whether you can afford electricity, send a child to school with breakfast, a minimum wage helps protect dignity. There are so many social ills that result from low-paying wages. Health is affected because persons cannot afford to buy or provide themselves with their needs, struggling to live decently, forced to live, Madam Speaker, in unhealthy conditions as rent is unaffordable. Families and children are affected. To protect the workers, Madam Speaker, the order provides that an employer can be fined for paying below the minimum wage, failing to post notices unlawfully reducing wages, with higher penalty for repeat offenses. We are not here, Madam Speaker, to target or to punish, but to work together. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we're inviting both workers and employers to work with us, to speak with us. We are here at the Labor Department not to take sides, but to work with both. We have worked as well with the International Labour Organization as part of this process, and the ILO recognizes minimum wage frameworks and international standards under the Wage Fixing Convention number 131 as core tools for fairness and equity. It gives us a voice in the international forum, and so much will now be a part of this profile and be able to ratify this convention, which is long outstanding. Through concerns, workers, we prepare, as I said before, to hold discussions on practical issues while keeping the core principle intact: fair wages for decent work. Madam Speaker, I want to implore employees not to cheat their employers of the time that they are at the business places to work, to give of their best, to give of excellence, to give of their commitment as we work together. Madam Speaker, it is important to recognize the context in which we work. Although we may seem as if it's just about labor, Madam Speaker, there is more to it than that. We have many other departments, and so I will address those as we go along. But I wanted, Madam Speaker, to highlight those two programs, especially at the beginning. We cannot forget, again, Madam Speaker, that before we can speak of advancing, we must plan. And so, Madam Speaker, our strategic plan sets out the ministry's programs and allocations, which I must give account for. The strategic plan speaks of our strategic management and administration, infrastructure services, plant hire and mechanical, airport management, and operations, in addition to the industrial relations that I spoke about. It is important that we follow a strategic plan as a significant shift in the overall envelope across our medium and long-term horizon. The reality, Madam Speaker, is that we have to be more disciplined, more coordinated, even focused on values for money, because when resources tighten, systems must strengthen. We have heard the Honorable Premier, Madam Speaker. As he said, it's not all gloom and doom, but we will be expected to tighten our belt. I must, Madam Speaker, account for financial stewardship under my watch, and I will speak directly to that. In the financial year 2025-2026, the ministry operated with an approved budget of $49.8 million, of which $22.99 million was made available for implementation, reflecting the phased nature of capital programs and funding drawdowns. Against these available resources, the ministry recorded actual expenditure of $22.13 million, achieving an overall execution rate of 96.26%. Madam Speaker, where we take these figures apart, disaggregate them, they become even clearer. Our recurrent expenditure amounted to $15.1 million against the year releases of $15.16 million, representing an execution rate of 99.6.5%. This means that the ministry sustained virtually full execution of its operational budget, ensuring that our core services, infrastructure, maintenance, and plant operations, airport service, and labor and administration were delivered consistently throughout the year. Our capital expenditure, by contrast, reflected the realities of procurement contractor performance and program sequencing. Against the year releases of $7.83 million, actual capital expenditure was $7.2 million, representing an execution of approximately 89.7%. Madam Speaker, these figures are not abstract. They demonstrate a ministry that is managing both operational certainty and capital complexity at the same time. At the program level, the strength of execution becomes even more evident. Infrastructure services recorded expenditure of approximately $8.66 million, with execution approaching 99.8%, delivering road rehabilitation, drainage works, building maintenance across the island. Madam Speaker, employment, putting, Madam Speaker, money into the hands of our people. Our plant hire and mechanical services executed approximately $3.18 million, with execution exceeding 98%, ensuring that critical equipment was available to support works, maintenance, and emergency response. Airport management and operations delivered approximately $2.49 million, with execution exceeding 99%, maintaining safe and compliant aviation services. Our strategic management and administration executed approximately $2.30 million, supporting coordination, policy oversight, and cross-government project delivery. Industrial relations and labor services, though small in allocation at approximately $22 million, also recorded execution in excess of 99%, supporting inspections, compliance, policy implementation, and as I said before, the minimum wage framework. Madam Speaker, that is what execution discipline looks like. It means that across our programs, maintenance was carried out, roads and drains were addressed, public buildings remained operational, equipment was mobilized, the airport remained compliant and functional, and labor services continued without interruption. In addition, the ministry delivered strong revenue performance, with recurrent revenue reaching $2.32 million against a target of $2.16 million, achieving 10.76% of projections, driven by licensing, mechanical services, and airport-related revenues. Madam Speaker, what does this demonstrate? It is not that funds were simply spent. It demonstrates that funds were converted into results across every program area. And so, Madam Speaker, although we speak of a budget, and although we speak of figures, it's words, Madam Speaker, that puts flesh on and clothes on our numbers. It reflects, Madam Speaker, that as a ministry, we are managing a complex portfolio with discipline, control, and a clear focus on delivery, ensuring that our public resources translate into tangible improvements in infrastructure services and national resilience. Madam Speaker, this delivery has been supported by a disciplined use of resources across both recurrent and capital programs, investment in building maintenance, road and drainage works, and utility improvements represents $7 million, targeted expenditure aligned to national priorities. Even under pressure, the ministry has maintained strong utilization of available funds, ensuring that resources are directed towards areas of great impact and need. We want to ensure that, Madam Speaker, every cent is spent, and spent responsibly, Madam Speaker, and with integrity. The last year was indeed not easy. It was demanding, technical, and at times unforgiving, but built, delivered. We advanced our national pivot towards structured maintenance. We continued upgrades to priority public buildings and critical facilities, targeted repairs and improvement to extend the useful life of assets, strengthening safety features, including protective measures as quayside, advancing the tools and systems needed to manage the public estate more professionally. Madam Speaker, I want to emphasize that, for example, among our public buildings, we had those of the fire stations that we had to service and that were left, you can say, in disrepair. And those are the officers that keep us safe, both the fire station at Braids and the one at J.A. Osborne Airport, Madam Speaker, has received, Madam Speaker, much needed attention, and we will continue to complete that project. Madam Speaker, this work as well was visible across communities, and we would have spoken about that before. Flood mitigation works were undertaken in Casby, restoring drainage capacity and improving resilience. Sections of the Bellum Valley, which we unearthed and reopened, strengthening access and network redundancy, access along St. George's Hill, Madam Speaker, in conjunction, Madam Speaker, with the Honourable Premier and the Tourism Authority, and planning advanced Bellum Bridge to support long-term climate connectivity. These interventions, Madam Speaker, formed a broader part, a broader section of the work that we do. Madam Speaker, if it were not for the committed work of our engineers, we would not have been able to report to this honorable House that under the financial year, we also strengthened our nation's road and drainage system. Runaway got to St. John's, achieving full target delivery. Davy Hill to St. John's, surface overlay. Little Bay area, network benefited from patching and surface overlay. Improved durability and serviceability. Further enhancements were taken across communities at Woodlands Beach Road, Glebe, Hope, Salem, Upper Frith, overlay at Jones Hill. Jones Hill residents had suffered for years. From Lookout en route to Judy Peace, and work recently at Bishop View Road was also completed, service overlay delivered, and Limekin and Old Roseby also saw remedial works. Madam Speaker, we must, Madam Speaker, apologize to our residents for the difficulty when traveling along the roads, and Madam Speaker, in their own communities. We thank them for their patience, and we will continue to work with them. Madam Speaker, we prioritize maintenance and improvement of our drainage and verge infrastructure, recognizing the critical role in safeguarding public safety and enhancing climate resilience. Along the Salem to St. John's route, verge cutting and comprehensive culvert and drain cleaning were completed and significantly improved visibility, stormwater conveyance, and the beauty. Though the secondary verge and drainage maintenance program, 18 private contractors executed scheduled works across our B road network, ensuring consistent upkeep, improved drainage performance, and attraction. These contractors recruited over 90 persons across various communities for an average of 5 months, thereby sustaining employment, strengthening local economies. In Alveston, corrective work addressed 100 meters of defective camber and enhanced stormwater flow efficiency, reducing safe runoff risks. A major invention was also delivered at Salem, Amesgut, where stormwater river crossing capacity was increased threefold, and the U-drain was installed. 150 meters of camber defects were rectified. 60 meters of new sidewalk was construed to ensure pedestrian safety and mobility. Montserrat on the move. Madam Speaker, the government maintained its agenda on critical building infrastructure, as I said before, advanced significantly, not only at the fire stations, but at the clinics. Montserrat Secondary School, Block L is now completed, which has been lying around for some time. ZJB, shuttered. These undertakings are not just projects of repair, they are the engines of employment and they are protecting our citizens, Madam Speaker. We will continue to recruit, ensuring consistent jobs and steady income where the budget allows. Madam Speaker, this is tangible evidence that our maintenance agenda is strengthening both our public facilities, the livelihood of our people, the families, and by extension, our economy. Madam Speaker, this accomplishment were not done willy-nilly. They reflect prudent management of public resources, disciplined execution of planned works, and the government's unwavering commitment to building a safer, more resilient, and better connected Montserrat. We cannot pretend, Madam Speaker, that we did not encounter challenges. We did. And chief among these, believe it or not, were at times shortage of skilled labor in order to complete the contracts, and extended land issues that have delayed certain road works. These challenges, though real, they're not insurmountable. The government remains steadfast and committed in addressing them through targeted recruitment, training initiatives, and continued dialogue with our landowners and stakeholders. It's about our people. It's about partnership that leads to prosperity and a secure, sustainable future for all. Landowners, we want you to know that when we improve roads, your property value is enhanced and you are more in a position to benefit. I ask that you partner with us as we endeavor to build our One Montserrat, our 5-star premium destination. Madam Speaker, this achievement of the Bellum Bridge cannot be taken by built alone. We must commend, Madam Speaker, our Honorable Dwayne Hickson, Parliamentary Secretary, for the Bellum Bridge restorative activities, which mark a significant milestone in our national infrastructure. It is a symbol of hope, of partnership, of shared vision, again, that we care about our people and we remain committed to building one Montserrat. And as Honorable Dwayne Hickson always says, no one must be left behind. No mouth must be left unfed. So this is not simply about uncovering a structure long hidden. It's about restoring consistent and safe access for the people of Montserrat. The reopening of this vital crossing ensures that the residents of Isles Bay, as well as our sand miners, farmers, tour operators, real estate opportunities and residents, they can move freely and securely. It also provides reliable passage for the communities of Richmond Hill, Weeks and Foxes Bay, strengthening connectivity and supporting both livelihoods and daily life. It speaks to partnership, and we want to thank the private sector, which assisted greatly. We could not do it alone. Madam Speaker, this restoration stands as a symbol of resilience and renewal. It demonstrates the government commitment to addressing long-standing challenges, as with Casby, and delivering tangible improvements that safeguard our people, empower our industries, reconnect our communities. Above all, it underscores our vision to ensure that Montserrat becomes a 5-star destination, a place where our citizens and residents can work, live, and enjoy with pride, and visitors can also participate for relaxation and investment opportunity. We must be bold and courageous. And so, Madam Speaker, the skills that are used on our government projects, allowing our government to do more with less for the good of the people, building capacity, we cannot overlook that. We will always continue to partner with private sector, ensuring that they are also benefiting, because private sector is also one of our engines of growth, putting money in pockets, homes, helping businesses and the local economy, external contractors. Montserrat benefits, and so do they. Madam Speaker, we continue to lay the foundation on which we will advance. Our plant and mechanical capacity, Bill continues to strengthen the heavy equipment and workshop function that underpins everything from roadworks to emergency response. Because, Madam Speaker, a ministry that depends on external equipment at the moment of crisis is a ministry that will always be behind the storm. We work to ensure that we are always ahead of the storm and that our people can have connectivity as quickly as possible after storms. We also, Madam Speaker, continued with our utilities and energy transition. Over the past year, we have advanced the Green Energy Transition Program, moving from planning into early implementation. In so doing, we have established a foundation for a more sustainable and resilient energy system. During this period, the battery energy storage system, which was lying there, was refurbished and brought back into initial operational use, including charging and limited dispatch, marking an important step towards stabilizing the grid and enabling renewable energy integration. These are not isolated technical upgrades. They are foundation to public health, economic stability, and environmental resilience. They are also, Madam Speaker, improving our energy security, and while we strengthen our water reliability, reducing vulnerability to climate shocks, and enhancing access to essential services across the communities. Madam Speaker, these efforts have been supported by continued coordination with the Montserrat Utilities Limited, which remains central to the delivery of the energy, water, and distribution system improvement. Strengthening this partnership is essential to ensuring that infrastructure investments translate into reliable, sustainable services for the people of Montserrat. I will come to that, Madam Speaker, but we cannot but register in this honorable House our thanks and our gratitude for not only organizing, but the advice we get, making sure that the work was undertaken. Madam Speaker, the way that these projects were undertaken, the landscape of Montserrat has changed. The workforce, the ethos has changed, and I only can imagine what is going to happen in years to come. No more are we simply doing 7 to 3. Work is ongoing late into the night. That is the commitment that has been demonstrated by the Montserrat Utilities Services and all our other contractors. And, Madam Speaker, our persons from BILT, who despite their everyday duties, found themselves right there beside our contractors, working alongside to ensure that we are able to achieve. Madam Speaker, I must speak of our tower, and as we continue to strengthen the systems across access, making it safe and compliant, recognizing that connectivity is not a luxury, but a condition of development. We also have to ensure, Madam Speaker, that our persons are housed in better condition. And so we were able, Madam Speaker, to do the internal works in the tower. And we have equipment, we also have furniture for the staff, but there are other technical requirements for assessment to bring it into commission before we advance to completion. And so, Madam Speaker, we will continue to work with the Governor's Office, with ASSI, and with ECHA to ensure that this is completed, and in short order as quickly as possible. For the coming year, Madam Speaker, it's about building systems that last. I will not speak in an exhaustive way, Madam Speaker, because my other colleagues will also want to speak. And this is not the only time that we speak. We have town hall meetings, As Premier has pointed out yesterday, we do ministerial statements, we do radio programs, we do interviews, we speak to our people, Madam Speaker, and we intend to continue that connectivity. So in this budget, BUILD is working towards a principle. We must protect what we already own. We cannot continue to build new assets while existing ones deteriorate. We cannot keep responding with patchwork. We cannot keep waiting until small defects become structural failures. The strategic plan identifies the need for infrastructure and building maintenance strategy. And this year, we intend to operationalize this principle. Stronger scheduling and planning of building maintenance, clearer prioritization based on risk, service, and investment, improved systems for managing our maintenance requests, and a structured approach to accommodation, health and safety access, and public estate. This is not a wish list, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we all know that when it rains, it rains. We have seen flooding, erosion, blocked drains, undermined roads, and communities disrupted. This year, BUILD is working towards a stronger, more predictable cycle of road and drainage maintenance. The strategic plan explicitly sets out the need for modern tools, including asset management systems for roads and maintenance. And it recognizes that road improvement, including AO1 and supported infrastructure, remains central to national mobility and economic access. This is about safe travel, stronger access for communities, protection of property, reduced emergency response costs. Madam Speaker, the outcome of this work is straightforward and measurable. Improved drainage performance, reduced flood risk, enhanced road safety, and continued access to community and essential services. Madam Speaker, our guts have to be cleared and our crossways have to be strengthened. These are also on our program. Now to energy, Madam Speaker. Affordability and sovereign resilience is what we aim for. Energy is not only an engineering matter, it is a household matter, it is a business matter, it is a national security matter. And we have heard, Madam Speaker, although we may not be directly impacted on what is happening globally. I will not expand on this because our Premier, our Honorable Premier, did that quite ably. Our strategic plan commits to implementing legislative, regulatory, and institutional frameworks and support for renewable energy transition along the implementation of the energy policy and action plan. At the moment, we have consultants who are advancing that work. This year, BUILD will continue to drive renewable energy modernization, grid resilience, and reliability, and the enabling reforms that ensure this transition is sustainable. We also recognize that geothermal is a strategic investment that must be maintained and protected and developed. The strategic plan makes clear the need for annual maintenance to safeguard this national asset. I must inform you, Madam Speaker, that we have received our final report on our geothermal flowing, and it is very positive. Madam Speaker, we have a gift from God, as some would say, double for our trouble, and it is, Madam Speaker, a natural resource that we must develop and from which our people must benefit. You have already heard this Honorable Premier speak of investors, but I also want to encourage Montrealans. They must not only be business people, but we must become investors as well and invest in our natural resource. We must preserve and protect for our future generation. Developing geothermal energy is central to cost stability for our household and competitiveness for businesses. It is a disciplined, multi-year project for national transformation. Madam Speaker, these investments are about reducing long-term exposure to fuel volatility and supply disruption, as well as climate-related risks. We know, Madam Speaker, that we are also embarking on our energy program, which at Shinlands, we have had some challenges, and that also include logistics. Just to give you an example, Madam Speaker, we received a container intending to advance the work. But what happened? In St. Martin, where it is shipped, they separated the shipment. And that which we need is still in St. Martin. But with God's grace and, Madam Speaker, our personnel supporting, they, I know, will try and get it here to us as quickly as possible. Now for water and wastewater, public health and dignity. It's about public health and dignity. It's important, Madam Speaker, that we have reliable water supply and effective wastewater systems. These are foundational. And so this year, BILT will continue to develop our spring development and water security intervention, wastewater system strengthening and permanent solutions, and improve integration between utilities and energy resilience. You would have seen, or the public would have seen, Madam Speaker, how we are eager to get that done. We can tell you, Madam Speaker, that Hope Springs is on near to completion. They're working on the fencing, and there are few more housing to be completed. Lawyers Mountain are completed. Madam Speaker, we have 2 tanks, which are quite iconic for our landscape, and we are working on the other 2 tanks, and those are expected. That is our water security reservoirs. We have changed those to more healthy and durable options, and so we are in the process of completing those. Again, Madam Speaker, in undertaking that type of work, our people are also increasing their capacity as they are exposed on these works. Water is not only about pipes and pumps, however. Water, as I said, is about dignity, it's about our health, it's about our safety, it's about our resilience, it's about modern standard of living. And so these interventions improve reliability, reduce system losses, strengthen resilience to drought and climate variability. And Madam Speaker, I dare say that there are economic benefits as well. And these we wish to explore further in the new year. What of airport services, safety, compliance, and modernization? The strategic plan for the airport includes internal quality control systems and the continued pursuit of improved operations and facility modernization. It also highlights a business case approach for capital improvements and asset protection. In 2026-2027, our aviation focus is disciplined, safety and compliance first, operational readiness and modernization, protection of critical aviation assets, and a structured roadmap for any future extension of our operations. This is in the right order, Madam Speaker. Safety must lead, compliance must guide, sustainability must follow. We also will continue working with the Governor's Office, Madam Speaker, to ensure that we are able to offer our people a safe and reliable service, and affordable as well, in and out of Montserrat. We spoke also of Medivac earlier. That, Madam Speaker, is still being explored. But as I said earlier, I have spoken about those issues in this House and outside of this House, so I will not elongate this presentation in going into details. Our planned hire workshop and skills, the engine of delivery. Our workshop and fleet are not the back office functions. They are frontline national capacity. The strategic plan includes improved workshop systems, fleet management improvements, major overhaul of age equipment, and apprenticeship pathway in heavy equipment operation, welding, and mechanics. As we speak, we have apprentices who continue to work with us, and I must add that there are females who are involved in this program, and I only pray that they remain determined and persevere, because we know it's a male-dominated environment, and not give up, but continue to work so that they can become a light for other girls and women to see that they are not excluded from any occupation, from pursuing any skill, but that the world is there for them to become equal partners with our male counterparts. It is through our partnerships, as I said before, that we'll progress and that we'll prosper, as well as ensure that we have a secure, sustainable future. I also say that, in addition, Madam Speaker, to construction, and not to go back, but just to draw reference on our projects as they are right now on the road. Persons who would have seen the work undertaken would recognize that women were included, and we're going to make a stronger effort, even in procurement documents, that gender is balanced on our projects. We ask our female not to back down, but to come forward. And we at the Labor Department are willing to work with you and assist you in moving forward in occupations and jobs that are not normally seen in Montserrat. I dare say in Montserrat, where women are not normally seen in the workplace. This is critical. It is critical for the development of our land. Because, Madam Speaker, we cannot afford for women to be excluded. And I dare say I am not at all excluding my men either. It is my men who at this time, Madam Speaker, carry out the work, the hard work I've built, and I will thank them later. So wherever they are, I want them to know that I'm not hitting out at them, but we're ensuring we have a more equitable and fair and wholesome society. The planned hire workshop and skills development is critical. Without our mechanical readiness, every infrastructure plans become theoretical. I have heard the Honorable Premier, and he has already spoken, and as I normally say, Rome was not built in one day. I'm a reasonable person, but we'll work with what we have, and when we have further fiscal space, to see how we can strengthen this area. And our Premier has been very supportive in us getting our machinery. Madam Speaker, we will continue skills development in trade, for this is not optional. It is the backbone of resilience, and it's the economic opportunity for our young people. With respect to labor, which I've spoken about, but this is going forward, fairness, productivity, and workforce readiness is the mantra. The strategic plan for industrial relations and employment services recognizes the need to strengthen workforce resilience. We update policies in line with modern standards, and we have already implemented our minimum wage policy and planning on the horizon, as I said, to work with our employers. Madam Speaker, we also have international obligations, and although I will do so later, I want to commend our acting commissioner who has advanced work those reports, which were outstanding, and the handbook that I would have referred to was also prepared under her short tenure thus far. This year, our labor priorities include strong labor inspections and compliance systems, public awareness and workplace safety focus, improving labor market intelligence, and aligning training and workforce development to real demand. We cannot speak about growth if we do not protect workers. We cannot speak about transformation if our labor force is not prepared. We cannot speak about fairness if compliance is optional. We cannot speak about fairness if employers are not protected too. Madam, and supported. Madam Speaker, the establishment, as I shared earlier, of the national wage represents a structural reform in the labor market, strengthening income protection and fairness, particularly for our lower income workers, including women, their families. This reform is also setting the groundwork for a more orderly, fair, and modern labor market. Inclusive development and community impact. Madam Speaker, it is important to recognize that infrastructure is not neutral in its impact. It determines who has access, who is protected, and who benefits. Over the past year, infrastructure and maintenance programs have improved access to schools, health services, and community facilities, while also supporting local contractors and small service providers. These investments are strengthening access, equity, and opportunity across communities, including for women, youth, and our vulnerable groups. And now to ecclesiastical affairs, community well-being, social cohesion, and economic development. Madam Speaker, this department is built on the words that we wish above all things that you prosper and that you be in good health, even as our soul prospers. As faith-based people, our lives must reflect what our faith teaches. Montserrat is not only a place, it is a people. Community well-being is not only a social concern, it's a development concern, and our strategic plan signals engagement with faith-based programs as part of strengthening community well-being. And Madam Speaker, that was already highlighted by our Premier yesterday. And if we look at the theme for our budget presentation, it speaks to economic restoration and transformation with social empowerment. Through our faith-based, relationships and partnerships, we wish to advance this, Madam Speaker, this, Madam Speaker. We cannot afford not to bring about transformation and social empowerment and claim that we know God. A community well-being is not only a social concern, it is a development concern. And so our strategic plan signals engagement with faith-based programs as part of the strengthening community well-being. It is about partnership, mentorship, social stability, especially with families and young people. I will continue to structure engagement with faith-based partners. It's about economic development. It's about taking care of our elderly. Too many of our elders are left at home alone, Madam Speaker, with no one to speak with them. And it appears in some cases that their memory diminishes much more quickly when this happens. We wish, Madam Speaker, as I said, to look into social transformation and empowerment. We will also look at our youth development, again partnering with our Honorable Minister Osborne and his ministry and community. National identity and cohesion, we have remained committed to one Montserrat. We have come from different walks of life, different countries, different nationalities. Yet, Madam Speaker, we have been working together. When the Premier spoke of xenophobia, I was very concerned because I know that generally we are very welcoming, and we can go back to Arrow's Calypso. Montserrat is strangers' paradise. But what I can say, and I say so boldly, is that Montserratians are also a unique people, and they do not like to be taken for granted. They do not like if you're going to walk on them. They do not like if you do not respect our culture, that we are a people, and we're not here seeking any sympathy either, but a recognition that we have suffered and we have lost much, not just material things, because for some, that can be regained. For others, there's a real struggle. Paying mortgages at this time of your life, having recently built a house that you did not even sometimes get to sleep in, is not easy. And as I heard just recently, and I will not address that today, that visitors and those who come to live among us, as we do, must try to understand what matters to us and not simply want to impose their will upon us. Montserratians, although humble, quiet, will not tolerate that type of approach. We will strengthen our diaspora relationships, again, as we continue to build our one Montserrat. And the Premier would have already spoken that we intend to work with MAC to develop our religious festivals. We have gifted persons, gifted, talented people within the community of faith. And we do not want the master, and I respect those who do not share our God Jehovah and our Jesus, but I can only speak of them and what he said. What did you do with the talent? What did you do with it? It's also important that as a government, we harness that. We create opportunities for that to be shown to the world and also to become a pillar of economic development. As I move on, before I move on, it would be remiss of me and ungrateful if I did not thank the Premier for the monies that he gave to the ministry to advance ecclesiastical affairs. When the department was transferred, there was no money, and the Premier, with the Ministry of Finance, allocated monies. That money is for, as I said, serious business. We wish above all things that you prosper, that you be in good health, as your soul prospers. So I am just signaling, although it may look a little large, money can go quite quickly. But I again register my heartfelt thanks for that, Premier, Honorable Premier. Let me be clear that as we move forward, these are not random additions for which we have received additional fundings. These are signals of what government is working toward in order to strengthen delivery and resilience over the medium term. Building maintenance is recurrent to protect the public estate. Road drainage maintenance, recurrent to improve safety and flood readiness. Geothermal maintenance, recurrent to protect national energy investment. Fleet maintenance, recurrent to keep delivery capacity operational. Labor capacity and program strengthening, recurrent to improve compliance, fairness, and productivity. Our labor market needs assessment, labor market survey, capital to align with training on demand. Our airport facility improvement and asset protection, that is also capital to modernize and protect investment. These are investment into systems, not just outputs. And you may ask, is that all the capital you have? I am not going to deliberate on that issue since the Premier adequately dealt with that yesterday. But what I can say, Madam Speaker, is that we are not going to sit around and do nothing, but we are planning, because if we fail to plan, we are planning to fail. And that line does not work, or that word, with ability. Risks and realities, we must always speak honestly about the constraints. The strategic plan itself recognizes risks such as the need for more funding, staff turnover and capacity strain, and the technical risks inherent in renewable energy and complex infrastructure programs. So, Madam Speaker, our commitment is not to pretend that these risks do not exist. Our commitment is to manage them through better planning, stronger governance, disciplined procurement, and consistent stability. Is built on endurance, perseverance, commitment, skills, capacity building, teamwork. We do have our differences. And although Premier said yesterday that the budget is about figures, we know that the budget is also about words. And it is the words that form our reality. And what we also do, that also shapes our reality. So as we transition, we want to transition from reactive delivery to structured, system-driven development. Bill does not promise perfection, but we do promise discipline, direction, delivery, and accountability. And we must review our ministry if we are going to go forward. We are building systems that last. We are protecting what the people already own. And we are also protecting our people, because our people is our most cherished asset. And that will be reflected when the other ministers present, and also from what Premier presented yesterday. We are strengthening the backbone of national resilience. And if I may say, Madam Speaker, with the understanding that building is not merely physical, that's where I began. Building is moral. Building is institutional. Building is generational. Building is aspirational. As Scripture reminds us, unless the Lord build the house, the laborers labor in vain. So we build not with arrogance, not with division, but with respect for each other and with humility. We want to build with integrity, to build with endurance. I will invite the people of Montserrat, at home and abroad, to continue to partner in the work of building such a country. Green, connected, we are thriving, and we're resilient. Our One Montserrat, our 5-star premium destination where people want to live, work, visit, find fun and enjoyment. Time for action. As faith without works is dead, so too will words without works be dead. As I always say, we live local, but we think local. So the United Nations Sustainable Goals must and are taken into account when we plan, but it requires all hands on deck. And so, Madam Speaker, I cannot speak about all of this without thanks, gratitude, deep felt gratitude to our people, the partnerships that we have forged working together for a prosperous and secure, sustainable Montserrat. We cannot speak about the people because without them, there is no delivery. And so I want to place on record my sincere appreciation to the staff of the Ministry of Build and to our statutory partners. As I've already said, I have adopted all the gratitude and thanks that the Honorable Premier has registered in our budget, in his budget presentation for 2026. I thank you for the support you continue to give and for how you have delivered often under intense and sustained pressure. The workload carried by this ministry has been relentless. The pace has been constant. The battle rhythm has not let up. Many of our senior officers and indeed staff across the ministry have been operating for prolonged periods under strain, pushing through tight deadlines, complex demands, competing priorities, yet they continue to show up. What a consultant firm would have done and charged thousands for, maybe even the whole budget for some projects, the team at Bellum T, along with our partners, undertook and delivered, and in the process of completing. They show up prepared. They show up committed. They show up determined to deliver. Across government, Madam Speaker, we all recognize the morale has been tested, and that makes professionalism, consistency, standard of work challenging. But, Madam Speaker, they endure, and they must be commended. Again, words are important. So I will reflect on the Honorable Premier's budget presentation. I am not sure I like the spider, because I don't like spiders, and I don't do spider webs. And there's a strong warning of caution. But, Madam Speaker, I still understand the message that he is imparting to us of the Herculean task that we can overcome when we work together. The fact that our team and our contractors and those who work for us turn up every day ready to produce work of high quality and integrity is a testament to their personal motivation, their sense of duty and commitment to Montserrat, to building One Montserrat, a 5-star premium destination. Madam Speaker, to every member of the team, and I'm not going to call names, although I'm tempted to, but I want to say thank you To every member of the road crew and beautification, our sewage team who rise early, because sometimes these are the people who get overlooked, left behind, unrecognized, who rise early to get the job done and keep our people safe and healthy. I say thank you. All it takes, Madam Speaker, I can tell you, is one call. You see it, we say it, and they sort it. That's the kind of team we have. A driver, and I'm not going to name him, he says, Minister, I'm on top of it. And so I want to thank our drivers and the mechanic shop, all the team, our apprentices. And our teams can flex, as the young people would say. The engineers, the architects, the clerk of works, don't talk about our QSs, not going to call any names. Our electricians, our inspectors, our office front staff workers, our security officers too. The traffic team didn't speak much of traffic, but there's much work to be undertaken there because we need to get traffic online and modernize traffic team. Labor Commissioner and the team, I see you. This country also sees you, and we benefit because of you. As I say, you flex, serving in your area of expertise. Wherever it is required, you give of yourself. Our Port Authority team, our airport team, you are not forgotten. We thank you. Our Port Project team too, we thank you. Mull and all our contractors who make it happen, we thank you. Madam Speaker, I will not address this today, but we lost a promise, potential, and possibility in our young engineer that we lost. And just for now, and also, as you would have shared, a member of our Legislative Youth Council who would have one day sit here, and although it was agriculture, I dare say to the Honorable Osborne that I believe it would have been in this seat as the Minister of Bill, given the nature of the expertise. And so we have lost a soldier and a leader, and we extend from the government of Montserrat and from Bill T our sincere condolences. And at another time, which is more appropriate, we will delve into that a bit more because he requires more than I can give on this occasion. I thank God for his contribution. I thank God for all of our teams, our contractors who make it happen, especially all those, Madam Speaker, including our overseas contractors and consultants who have worked with us over the last year. We could not do it without them. As I said earlier, they have changed the working landscape, the ethos, and the mindset. And I think that puts us on good foundation to advance as we keep Montserrat moving. And as Premier said, as we rise from the ashes, as we rise from the negatives, and we go and we plant our feet on higher ground. To God who has been our help in ages past and our hope in the years to come. And I said earlier, who has made it possible for me to be here and from all of us who are here today to be present. I'm sure when we reflected on our lives, who would have thought that this little girl from Kingsale, this little black girl who was told to go to school and learn, behave yourself, respect everyone, would be here today. And so we go forward, we march forward together, in unity, in togetherness. We'll have our disagreement, but the focus is building this country, molding this nation, one Montserrat, our 5-star premium destination, where people want to live, work, study, visit, come and enjoy the beauty and safety, panoramic views of our land, our emerald land. We give God thanks. We give God all the glory as we continue to work together. I said last time, we arise. We arise to build. We arise in faith, and we continue up through that pathway to forge through our people, our partnerships, prosperity for more secure, sustainable Montserrat. So God bless us all. God bless Montserrat. We thank him for all that is past, and we praise him for all that is to come. And Madam Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to address this honorable House, and I now rest, unless you require anything else of me, if it pleases you, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
I don't think I'll require anything more. You will be asking much. I recognize the Honorable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, honorable members, people of Montserrat, I rise to present the budget contribution for Vote 30 from the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands, Housing, the Environment, Youth Affairs, and Sports for the financial year 2026 to 2027. But, Madam Speaker, before I address the numbers, I want to ground this contribution in something my father, Montserrat's fourth national hero, used to say. Madam Speaker, he had a vision of what success looked like for this island. He said that every Montserratian should own their own home. Every Montserratian should drive their own car. And the women, Madam Speaker, especially the women of Montserrat, should be financially independent enough to always dress well and walk proud in their high heels. Just like Mr. Secretary, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that was his vision. And he carried a fire fueled by an undeniable sense of pride to make his vision a reality for all Montserratians. Madam Speaker, ironically, the first ministry my father served in is the very same ministry I represent today. I'm here today to say that fire, that pride has not gone out. It burns in my passion to elevate this nation and in the work of the ministry every single day. Madam Speaker, when we are on the verge of planting again in the exclusion zone, when we sign a letter of intent for an export agreement with Canadian partners, when we put a young athlete on a plane to compete at the World Championships, when we hand the keys of a new housing unit to a person in Drummond's, we are saying to the people of Montserrat, we refuse to settle. We refuse to accept dependency as our destiny. Madam Speaker, Vote 30 of this budget, totaling EC 11.8 million, is a budget of action. It is a budget that reflects the work already done and the ambitions still ahead. And I intend to walk this House to what we have achieved, what this budget funds, and where we are going. Agriculture and food sovereignty, the regional crisis we must confront. Madam Speaker, I begin with agriculture because it is the foundation upon which nations are built. The CARICOM food import bill now exceeds US $6 billion annually. In the OECS, we import up to 90% of the food we consume. Madam Speaker, I'm starting with this context so that persons listening understand that Montserrat is not unique in this situation. The World Food Programme's 2025 Caribbean survey found that 3.2 million people across the region are food insecure, with 94% of those respondents reporting the issues of higher food prices and 30% of those people skipping meals as a result. And Madam Speaker, it is getting worse. The United States, from which the Caribbean sources 70% of its imported goods, approximately 44% from Montserrat, has imposed tariffs that have hit our shelves. Saltfish, for example, Madam Speaker, is up 25%. What that means is that every trip to the supermarket is a reminder of what happens when you depend on others to feed your people. That is, Madam Speaker, when you have little to no control of part of the value chain, and in other words, have no food sovereignty. And Madam Speaker, if tariffs were not enough, the US-Israel war on Iran and the ongoing disruptions of the Strait of Hormuz have triggered what the International Energy Agency has called the greatest global energy security challenge in history. Oil surged past $100 a barrel. Gas prices have risen by 30%. But, Madam Speaker, it is not just fuel. Nearly half of the world's traded urea, the world's most widely used fertilizer, transits the Strait of Hormuz. The World Food Programme has warned that an additional 45 million people worldwide could be pushed into acute hunger because of rising food, fuel, and shipping costs. CARICOM Acting Secretary General recently told the FAO that our Caribbean economies remain highly exposed to global shocks transmitted through energy markets, food systems, and international supply chains. Madam Speaker, shipping disruptions, rising freight rates, increased insurance costs, all of this is hitting our shores. This is no longer a theoretical discussion about food sovereignty. This is a national security imperative. Every pound of food we grow here in Montserrat is a pound that we do not have to import to a supply chain, Madam Speaker, that we ultimately have no control. So what has this ministry delivered? Madam Speaker, when I assumed this portfolio in late 2024, I identified three fundamental challenges: insufficient accessible agricultural land, a predominance of part-time farming limiting year-round production, and an aging farmer population with too few new entrants. I said then, and I say again now, food sovereignty focuses on local production, ecological sustainability, and social and economic justice, as opposed to just simply stockpiling imported food. That is not rhetoric, Madam Speaker. That is policy, and here are the results. In this fiscal year, Madam Speaker, the Department of Agriculture recorded 97,916 pounds of vegetables and ground provisions produced by the people of Montserrat. Madam Speaker, that is the highest output recorded in at least 5 years of Statistics Department data, 57% above the 2019 pre-COVID baseline of 62,385 pounds, and surpassing the previous COVID-induced peaks of 96,000 pounds set in 2021. That is nearly 36 pounds more food coming out of Montserrat soil than just 5 years ago. We also produced 30,000 pounds of broiler meat and recorded fish landings of over 17,000 pounds in the first 2 quarters alone. This is food grown, raised, and caught right here in Montserrat. To put that in context, Madam Speaker, according to our own national accounts, agriculture contributes under 1% of GDP. Our food imports run at approximately 17 million per year and rising, with meat alone accounted for over 3 million and vegetables and fruit another 3 million. The gap between what we produce and what we import, Madam Speaker, is large, but we are closing it step by step. Madam Speaker, our extension officers conducted over 2,007 outreach visits to farmers, exceeded our annual target of 1,500 by more than a third. That is not a department sitting behind desks, Madam Speaker. That is a department and its minister in the fields, on the farms, working alongside the people we serve. The Agricultural Development Program, Madam Speaker, this was backed by 1 million in ECCB funding. Although I admit that it was late, but is now fully operational and implemented in only the last 2 quarters of the fiscal year, it has directly assisted 25 farmers and 2 fishers. But let me break that down for the House, Madam Speaker, because the details matter. We have spent to date 41,000 for land clearing, our most popular program, and asked for our farmers. However, Madam Speaker, several applications under this program are still pending due to the increased workload generated by this very administration, resulting in a backlog of work for heavy equipment operators that are fully engaged in many of the other projects. Madam Speaker, in the beginning of this journey, I also openly promised to negotiate to bring over 50 acres of private-owned land into productive use. I am pleased to say, however, that while we were unable to acquire the lease directly due to legal issues, the outcome has been even more organic. The proprietor has leased land directly to our farmers on an individual basis, and for that, I would just like to say thank you to him. Madam Speaker, he knows who he is. I won't mention his name here today. Under the same land clearing project that I would have mentioned before, Madam Speaker, we have actually cleared substantial acreage in that area and others, providing our farmers there with the infrastructure and the land access they need to produce. And Madam Speaker, allow me to just highlight something that makes me deeply proud. Among the farmers now working that land are 2 women who have left their previous employment to become full-time farmers. They are not part-time, Madam Speaker. They are not weekend gardeners. They have committed their livelihoods to the soil, and they are now, and I would argue, among our top producers. That is the kind of transformation we are pursuing, Madam Speaker. That is food sovereignty in action. Moving on, Madam Speaker. We invested 46,335 in infrastructure. That includes 2 hoop houses to expand poultry farming and 5 greenhouses to expand protected agriculture. We invested 73,395 in access. Those are the farm roads in Blake's Estate, Duck Pond, Silver Hills, so that the crop and livestock farmers can actually get their produce to the market. And Madam Speaker, we invested 37,965 in consumable inputs. That is our fence wire, fertilizer, rat bait, the essentials that make the difference between a harvest and a loss. And Madam Speaker, I want this House to appreciate something. The Agricultural Development Program, including the land clearing, the infrastructure, the farm roads, only commenced in the 3rd quarter of the fiscal year. That means the record-breaking production we are reporting, 97,916 pounds, the highest in 5 years, was achieved before the program even had half a year of implementation. The full impact of this investment, Madam Speaker, is still ahead of us. When this program has had a full 12 months to work, I expect that the numbers will be even more impressive. Madam Speaker, These gains in production have not happened in a vacuum. They have been supported by deliberate policy choices, including the government's soft loans program, which Honorable Premier spoke to about yesterday. For years, Madam Speaker, our farmers and our fishers found themselves locked out of traditional financing. Historically, financial institutions were reluctant to take on the perceived risk of agriculture and fisheries, leaving some of our most productive citizens without a pathway to capital they needed to grow their operations. This government, Madam Speaker, said that that was unacceptable. We designed the soft loan program precisely to close that gap, to inject capital into the productive economy, and to create a real avenue of access for the men and women who feed this nation. And Madam Speaker, it is telling, and it is a matter of pride for this ministry, that the majority of applicants under the program are our fishers. That is what practical, targeted support looks like. That is what a government that understands its productive sector does. On top of this, Madam Speaker, I am pleased to say that the ministry, in partnership with CARICAD, has produced a 3-year, medium-term agricultural transformation strategy. Madam Speaker, this strategy was approved by Cabinet within the last 2 weeks, and it aligns our sector with regional modernization goals and streamlines milestones for the department over the next 3 years. The milestones and the timelines in the strategy aim to keep us on track and pointed in the same direction while being rooted in decisions that are data-backed and evidence-based. Madam Speaker, at this point, I would also like to say that I am committed to using all resources available to us, local and abroad, to getting this island moving. In that light, I want to say a special thanks to Mr. Franklin Michael, or Frankie Michael as we so affectionately call him, who was a past director and also past permanent secretary of our own government, who now works at CARICAD, and I want to thank him for so graciously leading and aiding us in that new strategy. Madam Speaker, in addition to this, we have initiated work on a farmer registration system. This will become the foundation for a digital agricultural platform that will allow us to target incentives, track production, further adding to our evidence-based decisions about where to invest. At this point, Madam Speaker, if you would allow me, I would also like to put on record for any new or existing farmers that are unaware, as part of our outreach and direct assistance, we have established a needs request form that allows producers to access targeted assistance from the Department of Agriculture. Madam Speaker, rather than a one-size-fits-all approach, producers can now identify their specific needs, whether it be technical advice, pest management, input supplies, or land clearing, which seems to be the most popular ask from our farmers. Madam Speaker, we also acknowledge the concerns raised by our producers and have established a crop protection team to address the challenges posed by goats and other pests that are adversely affecting our harvest. I will admit here that this is painstaking, ongoing work, but it is essential if our farmers are to see the fruits of their labor and maximize their production. Again, Madam Speaker, I will put another plug here for the ministry and go on record to say that persons who are affected by loose livestock, feral animals, pests, please call the ministry and the crop protection team will respond. Madam Speaker, you have heard me talk about the greenhouses under the Women and Youth in Agriculture program here in this very house before. I am pleased to say that we have received the documentation for the 4 greenhouses, which should be on island shortly. The cold storage facility, which is a part of this project also, has already been delivered. Madam Speaker, these greenhouses will provide targeted, sheltered production on specific crops. Madam Speaker, what we have done is that we're using the data from our importation to build business plans around these greenhouses. So when we assign a greenhouse to a farmer, we are not just giving them a sheltered production area. We are giving them a business that will thrive from a market we know exists based on our importation data. And to expand our market further, in December of 2025, we signed a letter of intent with Northern Connection Distribution Limited, the Messiah Group, and the Canadian consortium partners to advance agriculture export development. Madam Speaker, CEO Ryan Messiah toured our agricultural lands across Lower and Upper Blakes, Duck Pond, Waterworks Estate, Corkhill, and St. George's. This LOI, Madam Speaker, covers good agricultural practices, phase 1 exports to Canada through Antigua, local job creation, integrated renewable energy for agricultural processing, and strengthen international partnerships. Madam Speaker, this is where I want to take the future of production in Montserrat. It is my belief that if we continue along the trajectory of increased production, that agriculture can serve as even the subsidizing agent for our access. And by that, Madam Speaker, I mean subsidizing means of transportation like the ferry to make it economically viable. Madam Speaker, what I mean when I say that is that when we don't have persons filling the seats on the ferry, we'll fill the ferry with local produce headed to islands like Antigua and maybe even St. Martin. This is my vision, but one that I think can become a reality since the data, Madam Speaker, exists to show that there's a viable market for our produce within the region. Furthermore, a sizable part of our capital budget comes from our development partners. We are working with the Caribbean Development Bank through the Basic Needs Trust Fund to expand access to farmlands and to develop some level of processing capacity on island. Madam Speaker, there is a real possibility of a chicken processing facility being funded through this partnership. This would be transformative for our poultry sector and for the availability of locally produced poultry on Montserrat. Madam Speaker, the department's revenue performance reached 90.3% of target. EC 83,000 against 92,000, with plant propagation exceeding its revenue target at 109%. This is a department and its producers, Madam Speaker, delivering results within our means. Madam Speaker, I believe the reason our farming community is responding to increased production is very simple. We listen to them. In July 2025, we launched the Farmers, Fishers, and Agro-Processing Needs Survey at the Montserrat Cultural Center. It was attended by 70 stakeholders, but responded to by over 150 persons. That survey, like our town hall engagements, has given us the evidence base to allocate resources where they are most needed. Madam Speaker, this ministry has also conducted at least 4 ministerial town hall engagements each year, and those are separate and apart from the United Alliance town hall meetings. That is more direct stakeholder engagement than any government before us. Madam Speaker, the policies we create, therefore, are the policies of the people, because they are born from these direct conversations with the people they affect. When farmers tell us what they need and we respond, they produce. Madam Speaker, this island lost up to 90% of its cultivated land to the Soufriere Hills volcano. But we are not accepting that as permanent. We are building back, acre by acre, farm by farm, farmer by farmer. And Madam Speaker, the numbers we are producing speak for themselves. Leading regionally and internationally. Madam Speaker, since we don't think our local performance is enough, our representation is taking us and our small island onto the global stage. Madam Speaker, as chairman of the OECS Council of Ministers of Agriculture, I have had the privilege of helping to shape the regional response to the region's food crisis. Last month, I represented Montserrat and the OECS at the Afro-Caribbean Investment Summit 2026 in Abuja, Nigeria. This was a gathering of over 2,000 delegates, targeting a combined market value of US $40 trillion. I delivered remarks on food sovereignty and Afro-Caribbean cooperation and participated in a panel on agriculture and food security. I was joined on this trip by fellow OECS ministers and our Director General, Dr. Didicus Jules. Madam Speaker, the economic rationale for the Afro-Caribbean agriculture cooperation is compelling. Trade between our two regions currently represents less than 1% of total trade. A CARICOM private sector organization study found that US $1.3 billion could be saved annually by diversifying our import sources with African nations offering goods at roughly half the current price of our imported goods. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, Africa recognizes the Caribbean could be an essential hub for agro-processing and transshipment, since, although Africa produces a lot, they lack the level of agro-processing some of the Caribbean islands possess. Madam Speaker, I may be very optimistic, but I envision Montserrat and its diaspora being the African Caribbean hub to the UK. This little island once produced limes and lime juice and other goods that were labeled and sold on the UK market as Montserrat products. We can achieve this again. Madam Speaker, to note, Nigeria has almost 250 million people. 1% of Nigeria therefore represents a market of 2.5 million people. That exceeds the total population of the OECS islands. Trade with Africa, Madam Speaker, therefore offers a unique opportunity for our producers to expand into and trade with what is currently being described as the fastest growing consumer market worldwide. Madam Speaker, also worthy of mention is a Frexim Bank, an African bank. They are providing up to $5 billion in trade finance to make this corridor work. Some islands like St. Kitts and Nevis, Madam Speaker, are already taking advantage of this opportunity to improve their access and streamline trade between Africa and the Caribbean, or what we now term Africa and its diaspora. And Madam Speaker, that relationship that we have built with St. Kitts and Nevis should also help Montserrat whenever that trade route is set up. Madam Speaker, Montserrat has a population of 4,325 people. But when our ministers are invited to give their input on world trade, when we chair the OECS Agriculture Council of Ministers, when we sign export agreements with Canadian partners, we are not a small island. We are an island that understands building our network, leveraging trade and development partners. We understand expanding our markets to access economies of scale. Madam Speaker, we then become a nation with a vision, and the world starts taking notice. So what does this budget fund for agriculture? Madam Speaker, Program 301, Agricultural Services, is allocated EC 2.3 million in recurrent expenditure. The ECCB-funded Agricultural Development Program brings an additional 764,800 in capital. Mali activities funded at 323,600 supports direct farming programs and field operations. Madam Speaker, key strategies supported by this budget include strengthening the production of select crops, livestock, poultry, and fish via research, outreach, training, and targeted incentives. The budget also emphasized improving access to farmland through upgrades to the agricultural infrastructure, promoting high-quality food products with the repair of the abattoir equipment after many years of neglect, and also developing new partnerships to facilitate additional food processing facilities. Furthermore, it underscores the importance of marine resource conservation, advancing this goal to enhance data collection and marine spatial planning. Youth Affairs and Sports, Madam Speaker. The investment in our young people. Madam Speaker, I turn now to what I would love to be the most transformative element of this budget. Program 307, Youth Affairs and Sports. This program receives EC 2.1 million for this budgetary cycle, making it the second largest program in the ministry behind only agriculture. Madam Speaker, this government believes that investing in our young people is not a luxury. It is one of the most important investments we can make for the future of this island. Madam Speaker, of that allocation, EC 880,000 goes to personal emoluments, meaning we now have dedicated full-time staff running youth and sports programs. Madam Speaker, I want the public to remember that before John Osborne and this UA government, this department operated with no director for what I've been told has been over 4 years, with no oversight of even their own finances. Now the Department of Community, Youth and Sports Services, under the directorship of Ann Thomas, has been redesigned to reflect our commitment to community development, youth advancement, and sports as a viable career pathway. Madam Speaker, on continuing the breakdown, EC 676,000 is allocated to program production and promotion. This continues our HYPE program, the new apprenticeship program, the recently introduced reintegration into society for ex-offenders program, and within that line sits roughly EC 100,000 dedicated to the summer school program. These programs give our young people structured, enriching activities, keeping them engaged, developing their skills, safeguarding them while parents are at work, and reinforcing the message that this government sees them, values them, and is investing in their future. Madam Speaker, EC 190,000 in subvention supports Sporting Association, but I will be very candid with this House. We submitted a new spend request to increase the sporting subventions because our associations need more. Madam Speaker, sports have been a major topic throughout this island, but however, budgetary constraints meant that this request could not be accommodated in this cycle. But Madam Speaker, I would say the need for increase has not gone away. I will continue to negotiate and explore every avenue to fund the needs of our athletes. Therefore, for now, I am asking our people, the private sector, the diaspora, and the community to contribute to the funding of and/or the participation in our sporting programs. Short, Madam Speaker, get involved in our village leagues. We regularly have organized village basketball leagues. Rounders has grown in popularity enough to have established its own league. And Madam Speaker, something I know that you'll be personally passionate about, perhaps a full-time village cricket league formed in the future. And Madam Speaker, we don't just lead by example, we lead through direct involvement. I am an honorary member of the Montserrat Motorsports Association. I recently became a general member of the Montserrat Cricket Association because I am enthusiastic about collaborating with community members and various associations to plan, fundraise, and coordinate these very events. Additionally, Madam Speaker, regarding participation, the Honorable Donaldson Romeo challenged me to a 100-meter race at this year's Easter Monday Relay. Madam Speaker, he's smiling, but he ultimately withdrew from that race. But we have agreed to a special event for next year. And Madam Speaker, the reason why I'm mentioning it here today is so that he doesn't back out again. But I'm pitching to him that we should potentially use this as a fundraising initiative for sports. But Madam Speaker, I'm going to say, and I'm going to put on record, that I will not lose that race. By the way, Madam Speaker, cricket returned after a 4-year hiatus. And I will say it has been 7 years since the Montserrat Easter Monday Relay has been run until now. Madam Speaker, I won't take full credit for everything that I've mentioned just now. Many of these initiatives flow directly from the consultations that inform the national sports and recreational policy. I am pleased to say that the policy department has reported that their process is almost complete. All stakeholder engagements have been concluded, and one final review meeting remains before the document is submitted to Cabinet for full approval. Madam Speaker, Montserrat has never had a finalized national sports and recreational policy. This government will deliver one. I also want to thank the Honourable Paul Lewis. I know he's not here today, and we wish him a speedy recovery. I messaged him early this morning, so he told me his initial tests have come back good. But I really wanted to thank him because through him, his team actually participated in the stakeholder engagement process for that policy. We see collaboration as vital to advancing Montserrat, and I commend everyone who contributed. And, Madam Speaker, I will say no, especially Mr. Liston Skerritt, who deserves an honorary mention as the former director and acting PS for actually taking his personal time to making sure that the policy got moving again. Madam Speaker, to continue, we have EC 160,000 in professional services of this vote, which funds coaching, training and development. EC 100,000 also covers our sporting facilities. EC 20,900 in grants and contributions supports our organizations directly. Madam Speaker, I would say that our athletes are actually proving what Montserrat can do. So let me tell you what our investment, although some may say little, is actually producing. Sanjay Weeks became the first Montserratian to compete at the World Athletics Championship, which was held in Tokyo last September. He ran 11.08 seconds in the men's 100 meter, but his personal best stands at 10.8. From an island of only 4,325 people, Madam Speaker, to the biggest stage in world athletics. Madam Speaker, our football team achieved a 1-0 victory over Belize in the 2026 FIFA Cup qualifying round, with Mark Rogers scoring in the second minute. Under head coach Angus Eve, we are fielding a competitive squad and staying in the World Cup hunt. Our cricket team, Madam Speaker, secured its first ever win at the LICB Senior Men's Tournament in October 2025. Wicketkeeper, batsman Joshua Grant was selected for the Leeward Islands Hurricanes. In basketball, Madam Speaker, Jordan Ryan was signed to Angelo State Rams in the NCAA Division II. But before that, Madam Speaker, in the NJCAA, he made the NJCAA second All-American team, stamping Montserrat's name into basketball internationally. These are not abstract statistics. These are our children carrying the Montserrat flag on the world stage. And every dollar we invest creates more of them. Madam Speaker, as such, we continue the funding of repairs and upgrades to the multipurpose sports center. We see 480,000 in capital allocation this year, which will give our athletes the facility they deserve. And the youth program, Madam Speaker, at EC 150,000 continues to provide structured development opportunities. Madam Speaker, we are making the best of the allocations until we can expand funding for the department and our sporting associations. On to housing, Madam Speaker. Safe, adequate housing for all. Madam Speaker, housing is not just a policy area for this ministry. For many Montserratians, it is the single most pressing concern in their daily lives. Too many of our residents continue to face housing insecurity. Although this government has lowered the duties on construction material, construction costs remain high. The housing wait list remains long, and families across this island are still living in conditions that fall short of what any Montserratian deserves. But we are delivering. And I want this House to hear the numbers because they represent real help to families. This year, Madam Speaker, the housing unit awarded 18 home improvement grants to vulnerable households to bring the homes of our most vulnerable residents to a decent standard. Indoor bathrooms, indoor kitchens, structural repairs, the basics of dignity that no Montserratian should have to live without. We awarded 5 financial assistance grants of EC 40,000 each to help qualifying households build their own homes. And then after realizing the popularity of the program, a supplementary EC 120,000 was approved and transferred into the department for 3 additional persons, totaling 8. Madam Speaker, a special program was then created and a further EC 220,000 was used for special rehabilitation grants under the Montserrat Land Development Authority for persons in dire need. The elderly lady in Davy Hill whose roof was falling in on her, the mother whose roof was leaking badly and creating mold where her kids slept, and 9 other persons who could not afford the critical repairs to their homes. Madam Speaker, some of these people cried for years. An elderly man came to my office and cried literal tears because, like many on this list, he was overlooked by the very same people who claim to be guardians of the poor. But, Madam Speaker, the hug that I received from one of these persons is enough gratitude to keep the passion in me burning to do more than just talk, but actually help our people. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, it must be recognized that these grants leverage equity in the private sector, meaning every dollar of government assistance generates additional construction activity in the economy, jobs for tradesmen, revenue for hardware stores, and ultimately a roof over a family's head. I'll go even further, Madam Speaker. Each financial assistance grant utilized to secure a mortgage for a new home yields an economic impact exceeding 10 times its original value. For example, 10 grants allocated towards new builds can result in an injection of over $4 million in the local economy. And, Madam Speaker, that is exactly the plan going forward, as I have indicated before. This is the most popular incentive in the ministry, and therefore we will be investing into that. Madam Speaker, what this shows is that the people of Montserrat are not trying to be fully dependent. They are ready and willing to rebuild this island one home at a time. While on the topic of housing, in November 2025, the ministry signed an EC 1.1 million contract with Steel Express Services for phase 1 of social housing construction at Adjournment. That is a new apartment complex block containing 4 one-bedroom units designed for our most vulnerable residents. Madam Speaker, many persons, even our own funded agent, doubted that we could complete that project in the remaining 3 months of the fiscal year. But, Madam Speaker, I am pleased to say the earthworks and infrastructure phase, to include access road, electrical and water installation, drainage, and connection to the Drummond's wastewater treatment plant, and most importantly, the building itself, all completed before March 31st. That is a testament to the competency within the ministries and the hard-working nature of our contractors and laborers who worked extended hours to ensure not just the ministry's success, but Montserrat's success. And just like our funded agent did, Madam Speaker, let me give praises to the manager of the Land Development Authority, Mr. Franklin Greenaway, and his team for making sure that we completed that project on time, and may I say, record time. Madam Speaker, I can confirm to this House that the continued build-out of the Drummond's development is moving forward. Additional resources have been secured within the LDA to advance the next phase of construction, and will continue direct oversight of this program with the team. Madam Speaker, the people of Montserrat have waited long enough. We are building, and may I dare say that by the end of this fiscal year, more new social housing units will be constructed and completed on the 2 fiscal years of this UA administration than in the entirety of the last 10 years under any other administration. And, Madam Speaker, I will stress the word completed. For in this very House, it was stated in a supplementary question to myself that a former government negotiated 15 million. But, Madam Speaker, I will ask, where are the houses? Madam Speaker, with only 1.5 million, 10% of that negotiated amount that was boasted upon in this very House, this administration has completed earthworks, installed utilities, communication, electricity, water, sewage, And Madam Speaker, most importantly, 4 persons will be housed in climate-resilient housing on a site that is ready for the continued build-out of more homes for our people. That, Madam Speaker, is the difference between what we often term politics and the actual execution that our people deserve. To continue, Madam Speaker, Programme 305, Housing Policy and Support Services. This has been allocated EC 647,000 in recurrent funding. Dedicated staff members are responsible for administering the Housing Assistance Programme, which continues to offer financial assistance grants of EC 40,000, material grants of EC 40,000, and home improvement grants of EC 10,000 to residents who meet the eligibility criteria. And Madam Speaker, I'm listing these things within the House so that the people listening know that there's help available within the ministry. Because this targeted support enables the qualified individuals and families to improve their housing conditions and access needed resources. In addition to recurrent funding, Madam Speaker, the Housing Construction and Rehabilitation allocation provides an additional EC 578,200 in capital. This investment furthers the ongoing efforts to expand the island's housing stock, ensuring that more Montserratians have access to safe and adequate homes. To support the well-being of elderly residents, the corrective maintenance of ward and support units is funded through a new spent allocation of EC 100,000. This measure ensures that those in assisted living environments continue to reside in dignity and comfort. Madam Speaker, the housing targets for this budget period reflect a commitment to addressing vulnerability and increasing access to housing. Plans include the issuance of at least 10 home improvement grants to vulnerable households, 10 fiscal incentive grants, duty-free concessions, and the construction of 10 new homes under public-private partnership strategies. These initiatives are designed to further reduce the wait list for housing assistance and ensure more residents have access to safe, adequate housing by the end of the forward estimated periods. Lands, physical planning, and the environment. And we title this, Madam Speaker, Modernizing Land Administration. Program 302 receives 831,500, a significant increase from the EC 624,000 approved last year. This increase reflects the funding of critical posts to include Director of Land Management and a database officer. These, Madam Speaker, are essential to modernizing our land services, and the modernization is already underway. This year, the department implemented GNSS, Global Navigation Satellite Systems, and that technology has delivered a 30 to 40% reduction in survey processing time. Faster surveys, Madam Speaker, means faster approvals. Faster approval means faster construction, faster investment, and faster development for Montserrat. The department achieved 100% completion of all government priority survey requests within required timelines. These included surveys of the proposed netball court rehabilitation, the prison, and other key national infrastructure projects. It has increased the digitization of land and survey records, and one staff member is progressing towards professional certification in surveying and mapping sciences. Madam Speaker, all of this was achieved while maintaining full operational output despite staffing constraints, and that's a testament to the professionalism and dedication of the team. Madam Speaker, revenue from land-related activities is projected at EC 623,000 from stamp duty, registration fees, survey fees, and lease income, making lands our single largest revenue generation program within the ministry. Physical planning, Madam Speaker. Let me share a number that I think speaks for itself. Madam Speaker, the physical planning unit set a target of 12 buildings complying with enhanced climate change adaptation standards for this year. The actual result was 131 buildings. That is not a modest overperformance. Madam Speaker, that is a testament to not just the department and its building code, but actually our builders working together to deliver houses that meet or exceed the standards for climate change adaptation. This matters, Madam Speaker, because every one of those 131 buildings is more resilient to hurricanes, more resilient to seismic activity, and more aligned with sustainable development standards. In a region, Madam Speaker, battered by climate events, Montserrat is building to survive. The unit also developed a data sharing policy for interagency GIS collaboration, achieving budget execution of 92.5%, and is progressing legislative amendments to the Physical Planning Act, the Building Code, and the Electrical Installation Act to embed requirements for digital plan submissions, environmental protection, renewable energy use, and climate resilient accounting for the changing environment, and also, Madam Speaker, more importantly, to bring more efficiency to the service. Program 303, Madam Speaker, therefore receives EC 690,000 for the continued delivery of these services. Environmental stewardship, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the British Overseas Territory harbours over 90% of the United Kingdom's total biodiversity. That is a fact I stated at the launch of the Montserrat's first National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan in December 2024, and it bears repeating in this House. Program 304, Environmental Management, receives EC 998,000. Our Department of Environment, Madam Speaker, conducts annual avifauna surveys covering 125 sampling points, monitors the mountain chicken population, patrols 2,850 acres of protected forest, and manages our Centre Hills protected area. I also want to draw this House's attention, Madam Speaker, to the UK Blue Belt Programme, the United Kingdom's flagship marine conservation initiative for the overseas territories. Montserrat waters hold significant marine biodiversity, and through the Blue Belt, we are working to strengthen marine spatial planning, improve fisheries management, and protect critical marine habitats. This program is an expression of the UK's responsibility towards the extraordinary marine environment in its overseas territories, and Montserrat is an active participant in ensuring our waters are sustainably managed for future generations. For the first time, Madam Speaker, Montserrat will be an active part of the UK Blue Belt Programme, opening up the avenue for increased investment into our blue economy. I'm pleased to say that we have signed the MOU with the Blue Belt team and should, in the very, very near future, Madam Speaker, start seeing the fruits of this collaboration for everyone involved in Montserrat's blue economy, especially our fishermen. Madam Speaker, the RSPB Biosecurity Programme, with EC 210 in capital, continues our fight against invasive non-native species. The DEFRA-funded management of invasive fire ants receives 18,300, and the JNCC Coral Reef Monitoring Programme receives EC 50,000. Madam Speaker, just to add to the context of how some of these programs have helped Montserrat, our national bird, the oriole, was downlisted from critically endangered to vulnerable in 2016. That is a conservation success story that reflects commitment. Madam Speaker, since 2012, Montserrat has received over £4.24 million for Darwin Plus conservation projects. This budget ensures we continue to be worthy stewards of that investment and that trust. Now, the budget in numbers, Madam Speaker. Let me summarize the final picture for Vote 30. Total expenditure for 2026-2027 is EC 11.8 million, comprising EC 9.3 in recurrent expenditure and EC 2.5 in capital. Recurrent expenditure represents a net increase of 425,000 over the previous year's approved estimates, driven by personal investment in land administration and youth affairs and sports, the summer program expansion, increased travel to support training, and the warden support unit's maintenance allocation. Revenue is projected at 1.37 million, sourced from landholding license, stamp duty, land registry fees, agricultural receipts, and other departmental income. Capital expenditure of EC $2.5 million is largely donor funded, reflecting our ability to leverage partnerships with ECCB, FCDO, RSPB, Darwin, and other partners to deliver results well beyond what our recurrent budget alone could achieve. I want to note that our capital program declined significantly in the forward years. And I just wanted to note that because I know the opposition will be looking at the budget. It will decline, you will see it decline to EC 331,000 in 2027 and 2028, and EC 80,000 in 28-29. Madam Speaker, this does not represent defunding. It simply represents the reflection of completion of current project cycles and not a reduction either in the ministry's ambition. We will continue to pursue new partnerships and funding streams to maintain the pace of capital investment. And Madam Speaker, so these figures only represent the forecast of currently approved figures and the implementation cycles. Madam Speaker, before I close, I want to place on record my sincere thanks to my permanent secretary, Mrs. Daphne Castle, and to the directors and staff across every department in the ministry. Those are agriculture, fisheries, lands and survey, the registry department, physical planning, GIS, environment, housing, and youth affairs and sports. I also want to extend my sincere gratitude to our statutory body, the Montserrat Land Development Authority and its staff, and the members of the various boards and committees which also comprise our ministry. Madam Speaker, the numbers I have presented today are not the work of one minister. They are the product of dedicated public servants and private sector individuals who constantly go above and beyond in service to the people of Montserrat. Madam Speaker, I know the Premier spoke about his web and the lion, but we too see the ministry as a web, a network where each person is equally vital and not just a system where the minister sees himself as the head. Madam Speaker, the staff will tell you that in our meetings, I make it a purpose to never actually sit at the head of the table, because I want everybody to actually actively immerse themselves into the meeting as an equal part. On that note, I will say that I am proud to serve alongside the team. Madam Speaker, permit me a few other acknowledgements. I wish to thank our funding partners whose continued support makes much of what I have outlined today possible. From agriculture to housing to the programs that uplift our young people. I also want to personally thank the Financial Secretary and the entire team at the Ministry of Finance for their steady financial guidance and the support they have extended to the ministry. Madam Speaker, sometimes I would send a WhatsApp message at 10:30 and he would respond, so I have to personally thank him. Madam Speaker, I also want to place on record my gratitude to the Honourable Attorney General and her team, on whom we rely constantly for counsel. Madam Attorney General, we know that we are constantly sending you a lot of work, but I must say you have never failed to respond when you're called upon, so thank you. To my colleagues in the United Alliance, I say thank you for the solidarity, the shared purpose, and the discipline we bring to this work every single day. I wish to actually make special mention of Jensen Skerritt and Keith Roy DeBeer Mawson, whose advocacy for our people, their loyalty, and tireless commitment to this movement deserve public recognition. Madam Speaker, to the ZGB Radio Montserrat and its dedicated staff, and in particular, I would say Basil Chambers, thank you for your constant support and providing through the What's on Your Mind program, a platform where the people of this country can speak and be heard. Madam Speaker, I would just say democracy is healthier because of the work they do. And finally, Madam Speaker, most importantly, the people of Montserrat, thank you. It is your constant encouragement, constructive criticism, and overall belief in my abilities that is pushing me to be the person that I am today. Madam Speaker, I am a product of this island because I was raised by this nation. In closing, Madam Speaker, I began this contribution with my father's words. Let me close with my own. When the Soufriere Hills volcano erupted in 1995, it took from us our capital, our farmland, our homes, and for many, their reason to stay. Our population fell from over 12,000 to under 4,000, to the point that people said Montserrat was finished. Madam Speaker, I'm here today to say they were wrong. Today we are producing nearly 100,000 pounds of vegetables and ground provisions a year, the highest on record post-volcano. 2 women are farming full-time, and the ministry is currently propagating trees to create orchards on land that is currently designated as the exclusion zone. A young man from this very island ran at the World Championships in Tokyo. Our football team is in the World Cup qualifiers. We are signing export agreements with Canadian partners and delivering speeches at continental summits. We have helped over 35 families with housing grants and are building new homes at Adjournment. We are protecting our biodiversity, our marine environment through the Blue Belt, and investing more in our young people. Madam Speaker, this government is giving the people of Montserrat a new degree of confidence to invest in themselves, invest in housing, to invest in agriculture, to rebuild this island. We were once a gem of the Caribbean, the true meaning of the Emerald Isle. Madam Speaker, that gem will shine again. Madam Speaker, the plans of this government are a true conviction that Montserrat's best days are not behind us. They are being built right now, in our fields, in our greenhouses, on our playfields, in our schools, and in the homes we are constructing for our people. Madam Speaker, there's a joke that I often share with our Premier, and I often tell him the reason why we get along so well is because he often reminds me of my father. And that is, Madam Speaker, don't worry, I'm mainly talking about the decisiveness and the respect that they command with their presence alone. I figured he would remind me that, not the other things, but I'll leave that for another day. But Madam Speaker, there's something that they also share, and that is a passion and a desire to help people, to see people prosper. And I am here to say, Madam Speaker, that that too is within me. Not because I carry my father's name, but because I have seen what this island can do when its people are given the tools, the land, and the belief that they can succeed. Madam Speaker, I did not enter public life to manage decline. I entered it to work and to build. And I give this House and the people of Montserrat my word that as long as I hold this or any portfolio, we will keep building. Madam Speaker, as such, I commend Vote 30 of the 2026-2027 budget to this honorable House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Education and Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise in support of our Honorable Premier, Reuben T. Meade, the government under the banner of the United Alliance, and I rise to support our budget. In education, our vision is to create an inclusive, modern, and sustainable education system which aligns with the island's direction to sustainable economic development, and in which all learners are nurtured and supported to achieve their full potential. Teachers are equally empowered through continuous education, encouragement and inclusion, and professional support. Our mission, Madam Speaker, is to have a ministry that is guided by the following core principles. The first one is equity, to ensure equal access to quality education for all learners, including those with special educational needs and disabilities. Excellence, raising standards and expectations in literacy, numeracy, technical education, and overall performance in primary, secondary, and the post-secondary space. Empowerment, supporting teachers, students, and parents through inclusive, targeted, and evidence-based interventions. I would like to thank the hardworking persons of the Ministry of Education, those both in offices and in classrooms and elsewhere. Their hard work and dedication over the past year does not go unnoticed. As our strategic agenda and priority areas, the ministry has identified several areas and have focused action in our work towards these. Firstly, in improving learning outcomes, we are dedicated to this through our Education Transformation Program. We have done this through hiring an Education Transformation Project Manager, a Standards and Excellence Partner, a Special Educational Needs Coordinator, a Numeracy Expert Specialist. We are also in the process of hiring an Education Psychologist, a Behavioral Specialist, and a Literacy Expert. Under improving learning outcomes, our strategic objectives include identifying and strengthening students who have special educational needs. We are in the process of this and have performed, through the work of our experts, the procurement process for a special educational unit. We want to thank all those persons who have assisted our students so far in special ed. This includes Dr. Carol Tewitt in the private sector, and the First Steps Academy, who have been working virtually and pro bono for over a year. I'd like to include in thanking the teachers who have taken on training because of their awareness of the problem. Many of them have taken on training on their own, and we hope to grow a framework with additional training and the additional acquisition of persons in civil service who will work as personal assistants and training and teaching assistants. I must express thanks to the many teachers who have, over the years, worked in classrooms that have clearly needed teaching assistants and personal assistants for additional support, just to reassure them, in addition to the help that has been happening so far, more help is coming. Our parents and students and teachers have felt the support of our SEND teams. I must make special mention to our new Special Educational Needs Coordinator, Amont Rashan, who will be coordinating special education across our schools and guiding our various teams. We look forward to her expertise in this area and to have her working with us. In expanding technical and vocational education, we hope to do so through programs in primary, secondary, and tertiary levels. We've embarked on this journey through a sustainable collaboration with CXC. The goals here are to offer advanced, modern, technical and vocational programs in the secondary school, which align with the CXC standards, and we are in the process of developing this project to ensure that both teachers and students can be taught, and this will allow our student population to sit the Caribbean Vocational Qualification exams, which will ready them for the workforce or for tertiary education, depending on their preference. It will strengthen the workforce and thus the economy, and it will allow our students to have stronger bargaining power in the workplace, as they will be receiving certificates as valuable as other CXC certificates. The goal is for MSS graduation 2027 to have a technical and vocational, strong and proud crowd of students who are ready for the next steps in life. Similarly, we'll be seeing the reopening of the technical arm of the Montserrat Community College. In improving literacy and numeracy, as a clear objective, we have commenced the journey of healing the poor numeracy and literacy outcomes across all levels, and have pledged support to students who have English as their second language, the ESL population of students. We have therefore hired 10 after-school tutors in math, English, and ESL who are currently working with identified students in these areas. Supplies have also been purchased to support learning. In addressing math and numeracy deficiencies, we are providing a large amount of equipment and supplies to set up a math lab and learning center within the schools. Our math specialist is currently working with maths teachers to strengthen mathematics instruction in primary schools. Our math specialist is using research-based pedagogical approaches, including concrete, pictorial, abstract, and cognitively guided instruction, and through structured professional learning. And this is supporting our teachers, and the impact it will have on our student population will be great. We have strengthened local screening for special ed in math, and we were able to, a few weeks ago, conduct professional screening with a visiting specialist for several students. We have now an updated database which will be used for immediate interventions and for students who have learning difficulties, including ADHD. We have been strengthening early childhood education, strengthening from the level of its foundation. We have conducted training and are providing specialized materials to early childhood practitioners for updating their teaching techniques specific to early childhood standards. And we're working in collaboration with the Montserrat Children's Society for some of our initiatives. Safeguarding our students has been a major priority for the Ministry of Education through enhancing safeguarding measures during schools, the hope of after-school programs, and ensuring that our holiday periods are covered, ensuring that safeguarding principles are embedded in every aspect of education. I must mention here our new Standards and Excellence partner who has hit the ground running. Her role is to embed these safeguarding principles and practices into everything that we are doing, and her recent detailed safeguarding report supports students, teachers, and parents and shows how safeguarding concerns are closely interconnected with broader welfare and learning challenges and will require coordinated strengthening of reporting systems and response mechanisms. And it highlights the important links between student safeguarding, student readiness for school, and academic process. Just to point out that sometimes when they are safeguarding issues, there are also academic issues, and very often there's significant social issues that can be overlooked. So it's sort of a holistic approach to safeguarding. I look forward to working with our Standards and Excellence partner and the wider education team as we work to implementing the recommendations in her report. We welcome again this summer the Safe Summer program of the Ministry of Education, which is a collaboration with other ministries. On this island, we shall be the village that raises the children through our dynamic program, which allows our students to enjoy a wide range of enriching activities, everything from agriculture to sports to drone flying, swimming, drama, and masquerade. And we look forward to the community support in this venture. This program creates employment for the good humans on this island to keep our children safe and engaged over the summer holidays. As minister, my grave concern for the after-school space of our students leads me to continue to seek funding for community center-based after-school programs to keep our students safe and engaged, with activities similar to the summer program from 2:30 p.m. until 6 p.m. This, when eventually accomplished, will have a huge and positive impact on student safety and student development. If there are persons in our local population, our diaspora, and friends of Montserrat who are interested in fundraising for after-school programs, please let me know. It is all hands on deck for this venture. I must not forget under safeguarding that the ministry is very proud of commencing its healthy breakfast program at the Montserrat Secondary School. We cannot have hungry children on this island, Madam Speaker. Student behavior is a problem in our classrooms. We await our behavioral specialist. But we've noted that there's often a link between social and academic struggles for students, and this affects their behavior. Over the past few weeks, we have provided training for teachers in the areas of classroom management, interpersonal and leadership skills, certified training, and we have put all of this in place and also have developed teaching in pastoral care. One of the strategic objectives of the ministry is to enhance economic development through providing a wholesome education. And as such, we promote arts, culture, and creativity to support the development of the orange economy. We now teach masquerades in our schools and are anxious to push forward with other aspects of our culture. In preparing students to engage with and sustainably benefit from the blue economy, it is also our hope that we will have ocean science and the blue economy being taught through experienced professionals in our schools. This program will require funding, but there's already a proposal that when funding is found would be truly incredible for our students. We're also developing our students' skills in the green economy, and this includes sustainable agriculture and ensuring that they're focused towards learning aspects of renewable energy. We would like to strengthen these areas in education. Another objective is to create a healthy population. So we must embed an understanding and practice in healthy nourishment and exercise to reduce death and disability from the non-communicable diseases. Diabetes and hypertension, as you know, are rising in prevalence in the region, resulting in heart disease, strokes, circulatory disorders. And these circulatory disorders, in the presence of uncontrolled diabetes, often leads to amputation. They also lead to kidney disease and eye disease. We are supporting our teachers through improving teacher retention and recruitment through professional support. We are expanding access to clear, modern, and digitally supported curriculum in our schools. We have draft policy on teacher strengthening and support, which outlines the new approach by the ministry to teacher wellness and development. Another objective was to bridge the gap to tertiary education access, and we are increasing awareness and hoping to further develop our programs which inform students about what happens in tertiary education and how to get there. We have signed an MOU with Monroe University, who will be providing scholarships to our students, and a lot of dialogue that shall happen during that process. We are empowering students through promoting student leadership, engagement, and empowerment. Under digital governance, we hope to strengthen our data collection systems, boards, and digital oversight. We've recently provided artificial intelligence training to our teachers and support staff, and to the leadership team, which serve to equip staff with practical AI skills, ethical awareness, and classroom application strategies. We have also provided equipment for supporting aspects of digitalization and have invested in digital governance software. Equipment provided to schools includes desktop computers, laptops for teachers and students in library areas to ensure that every child has access to the technology needed to aid in learning. Additionally, tablets are being provided specifically for lower enrichment acceleration program with the LEAP program for students to assist with mechanisms that may enable their learning. We have upgraded the IT systems in both Braids Primary School and Lookout Primary Schools to ensure better or new internet connectivity and updated IT platforms. And this is critical to ensure that the students are in a modern learning environment and to ensure that our teachers have access to online programs and in-class teaching mechanisms. We're looking big time, Madam Speaker, for a policy-driven education service, and we are developing a comprehensive national education policy framework, and we're involving our specialists in this work. And also in education, we're looking to support maintenance of infrastructure. Implementing a structured school infrastructure maintenance program has been felt to be essential. Just to mention a few of the quick wins of the ministry over the last couple of months under critical equipment. We've spent money on providing shelving to the National Library for better display and access to literacy and to improve current programs and advance new library initiatives. We're providing materials and equipment for agriculture, nutrition, arts, and textiles departments in the Montserrat Secondary School, providing specialist materials and equipment to chemistry, biology, technical drawing, physical education, building construction departments of the MSS. We're providing lab stools to ensure that the students can be safely accommodated in the new labs of the MSS, providing textbooks, literature, chairs, desks, private filing cabinets, heavy-duty printers, and are focused towards the development of a program which allows additional air conditioners in our schools. The students are very uncomfortable, and this is affecting their learning. We've got temperatures of 33 degrees on Montserrat at times, which is a really difficult environment in classrooms which are not necessarily well ventilated. And we have refurbished the library building at the Montserrat Secondary School with electrical rewiring, furnishings, and substantial shelving. We can now set out computer and other equipment for a more functional school library. Very proud of that initiative. So in education, we are delivering, and we have aligned our strategic directives in the ministry with key legislative and policy frameworks such as the Education Act of Montserrat, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and the Government of Montserrat Sustainable Development Plan. And the work we're doing in the ministry is already helping us to deliver on our strategic agenda, which sets out clear and forward-looking framework for delivering infrastructure, modern and high-quality education system. And through our strategic agenda, we are prioritizing the needs of learners, we're supporting educators, and we're strengthening community engagement while aligning with our national goals. So in education, we have quite seriously begun the journey to position Montserrat to advance in educational excellence, which will promote economic growth and ensure the well-being and future success of our people. In health and social services, Madam Speaker, the vision of the ministry has been closely aligned with the wider national vision. Our focus is clear: to build a modern, high-quality, fair, and sustainable health system of healthcare and social care for the people of Montserrat. I would like to thank all persons in the Ministry of Health and Social Services for their hard work, commitment, and resilience as they continue their efforts to move this ministry forward. Over the past year, we have seen real progress with the new National Hospital Project, which has continued to advance steadily. At the end of March 2026, all 3 wings were under construction. The lower ground floors had been completed. Overall concrete works had reached 64%, and value and engineering had already produced savings of 2.47 million EC dollars. Critical furniture, fixtures, and equipment have also been procured in preparation for commissioning, and the hospital remains on track for April of next year, 2027. In reducing death and disability from non-communicable disease, which is the cause of 70% of deaths in the region, there is a great deal of work to be done. And this work, as we go forward, will span health education and health promotion to reduce the prevalence of diabetes, hypertension, and their complications, strokes, heart attacks, kidney disease, peripheral vascular disease leading to amputation, and a new move to take healthcare to the communities through mobile teams on a weekly basis. It also involves advancement in how, as a health team, we manage patients both in primary care and secondary care. This requires modern care pathways and secondary prevention strategies for our patients with complications, but also requires that health teams have access to appropriate investigation, specialist support, local and overseas modern interventions. In 2025, we brought in Alteplase for the management of ischemic stroke and heart attacks, and we developed protocols related to such. We have been supporting CT services for stroke diagnosis, and this has, of course, resulted in a really drastic reduction in medical evacuation for stroke diagnosis. You no longer need to travel for your stroke diagnosis. And the ministry has brought in the first ever vascular surgeon to Montserrat in an effort to reduce the amputation rate on island, which has been considered significant. It is the hope that we can continue to support her visits. And we're hoping to support the visit of a team of podiatrists later this year through a collaboration with the Pink Ribbon Charity. So vascular surgery visits and podiatry care, along with the work that our local teams are doing, will go a long way in reducing our amputation rate. The ministry worked on a dialysis project in 2025, This, when instituted, will allow our end-stage kidney disease patients to receive dialysis locally through a program that takes care of equipment, reagents, technical support, and staffing. As you know, Madam Speaker, the rising incidence of kidney failure on Montserrat is contributing to death on island, and if not, it's contributing to high healthcare costs abroad. Please note that Black people are more likely to develop kidney disease than white people, and Black persons are 2 to 4 times more likely to develop end-stage kidney disease than white people. We are a predominantly Black country, Madam Speaker. And of note, diabetes and hypertension, which are present in over 60% of our over 60 population, are the biggest causes of end-stage kidney disease in the Caribbean. And in this population, 20 to 50% of persons have inherited the APOL1 gene from our West African ancestry, which causes a rapid decline in kidney function once the kidney damage has started. Cancers, Madam Speaker, the other NCD, will also be receiving our attention through early diagnosis programs for the following cancers: cervix, breast, prostate, ovarian, colon, and stomach. In addition to strategies to achieve early diagnosis, we are developing clear pathways for the management of these cancers. Our goal is to drastically reduce death from cancer in order to retain our workforce and retain our population. In emergency care, this year, our direction remains clear, Madam Speaker, to strengthen emergency care through faster and more accurate diagnosis, the use of modern diagnostic equipment, the adoption of international standards and protocols, the use of evidence-based care, and faster medical evacuation. We continue preparations for a more structured and consultant-led emergency service, aligned where possible with modern standards and supported by improved telemedicine and medevac arrangements. We look forward to the support of our Memorandum of Understanding with Guadeloupe, developed in 2025, which is awaiting funding. This MOU, once signed, will allow our patients immediate access to Guadeloupe's first world hospital for our time-critical emergencies. And this will reduce medical evacuation costs, eliminate delays in medical evacuation, and improve the quality of care we're able to provide for our patients with time-critical emergencies. In critical care, our goal is to ensure that our critically ill patients are better supported while on island and during transfer. This includes maintaining equipment, supporting staff in needs, and ensuring the development of clear policies for critical illness support. I would like to thank our lead in critical care, our anesthetist and critical care doctor and her team. Excellent job. Clinical audit, research, and CPD are important aspects that in health we would like to promote. If we want better outcomes, we must measure performance and act on evidence. We will therefore continue to build a culture of clinical audit, research, and professional development across the health system. We want every department to contribute to quality improvement, and we want to continue to strengthen staff through targeted learning and partnerships. Under social care, the ministry's vision involves a commitment to supporting the well-being of our elderly, our vulnerable, our children, and our persons in disabilities and our families in need. This year, we will continue to advance the National Disability Policy and National Policy on Older Persons, adult safeguarding legislation, and provide a push for revisions to social welfare packages and broad reforms to strengthen social protection and care. The most essential component of health, the driver, the channel through which the changes in health are occurring, is the Health Service Transformation Program, which is a multi-year system-wide reform process that fundamentally restructures how health services are governed, financed, staffed, delivered, measured, and sustained. Health transformation continues to be the primary mode of strengthening health systems across all primary care facilities and the hospital. Under this program, we have embraced health information technology systems, so electronic medical records, across the public health sector, and this has made some key advancements. All health centers have sustained active use of health information systems, and this has been improving quality of care, the quality of data collection, service monitoring, and accountability. At the secondary levels with the hospital, phased HIS readiness has advanced with preparatory work completed to support the emergency department and inpatients. We continue through health service transformation to maintain our CT and mammogram services at Glendon and have plans to strengthen this service through improved remuneration and staffing. I must thank PAHO for their continued technical cooperation program with the ministry under the Health Transformation Program. Our work with PAHO is assisting with the journey of health financing reform, how we pay for health. PAHO's work also assists with overseas care and policy reform. During the last fiscal year, Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Health introduced an amendment to the Public Health Regulations, as SRNO 1 of 2026. We are extremely proud as a team of this venture, both in health and this party. We have made it possible for all resident children to receive free medical care at the hospital, regardless of nationality. So this is a huge improvement in access to health care for the people of Montserrat. It equalizes access to health care, which is vital to ensuring that all of our children and all persons on Montserrat can receive the care that they need. I must thank the United Alliance team for their support in this venture. Additionally, CARICOM nationals and citizens of the Dominican Republic who have been living on Montserrat for 3 years or more now have access to all services within the Ministry of Health and Social Services with the same payment rates as Montserratians. Residents of the United Kingdom with British National Health Service medical cards in their name also now have access to all of our services at the same rate as Montserratians. So as a government, we remain committed to ensuring accessible, fair, and sustainable health services for all residents on Montserrat. Under health service transformation, we've expanded access to specialist consultation through the Visiting Specialist Program, which over the past year delivered the highest number of specialist engagements in a single year, with approximately 539 patient encounters to include consultations, procedures, and surgeries across multiple specialties, including urology, nephrology, cardiology, gastroenterology, and vascular surgery. These services directly support our early cancer diagnosis and intervention strategy and strengthens NCD care and the management of our complications of NCDs. We've also in health invested in workforce. We have enrolled nursing assistants, 13 of them. We have enrolled them in a program, and they have completed their care certificate program. And 28 nurses received hands-on clinical training through partnerships with our UK partners. Recruitment has also continued, with 11 officers being appointed across the ministry. And through a new arrangement with NHS Jobs in the UK, our recruitment reach has widened. So this will allow us to welcome applicants from the UK, which hopefully will include our own Montserratians out there in the UK working in healthcare, and give them access to jobs on Montserrat, and will ensure that the persons who we welcome are already trained to NHS standards, which I think is a plus. Madam Speaker, these are part of a focused agenda shaped by the real needs of the people of Montserrat and by the strategic priorities of the ministry and the government of Montserrat. I close by again thanking all persons in the Ministry of Education, Health and Social Services, our partners locally, regionally, and internationally, and the people of Montserrat we serve. Together, we are building a health system that is more modern, more equitable, more accountable, and which will ensure that on this island we are all safe and we can be certain that our healthcare needs are met. I must thank again the wider team of the United Alliance and our members in Parliament, led by our Premier, Honourable Reuben T. Meade. We continue in our roles to ensure that every vote counts and every moment on our political journey counts. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Honorable Parliamentary Secretary Buffon.
Right, thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, those listening, comrades, colleagues, visiting guests. Good afternoon. Madam Speaker, I want to start by congratulating, and thanking the Honourable Minister Osborne for continuing where I left off and for bringing his own initiatives to the ministry. Indeed, he's surrounded by some very fine people. Congratulations, sir. And also, Madam Speaker, I would like to actually commend Minister Buffon, the real Buffon, Minister Buffon, for her dedication to her ministry and the work that she has been doing in that department, in that ministry for the last year and a half or so. I have had firsthand the last week in her absence acting on her behalf, and what I call baptism by fire, with the myriad of challenges she faces in running that ministry, especially in health, community services, and education. Madam Speaker, there are some realities about national budgets that do not change, particularly for small island states like ours that are dependent on granting aid. Madam Speaker, things like cost of living or reductions in cost of living, concessions, salary increases, capital developments, just to name a few. These realities shows up year after year, regardless of who sits on this side of the House. Madam Speaker, granting aid comes with conditions. Global issues will always cause ripple effects. And as a result, we must prioritize the way we go forward. The truth is, Madam Speaker, is that the gap between what we need as a people and what we are able to fund continues to expand. Every year, the demand increases on infrastructure and on access, on social services, on economic development, and every year, the resources required to make difficult and at times uncomfortable choices. We are forced to prioritize, to squeeze, and to sequence. And yes, at times, as they say, the proverbial rob Peter to pay Paul. Madam Speaker, this is not new. This is the structure within we operate as a government every year. But Madam Speaker, acknowledging that reality cannot become an excuse for limited ambition. It must instead sharpen our focus on the impact these decisions will have on our people. Madam Speaker, I remember a time at the Ministry of Agriculture where I wanted to do a particular program. And it was my PS, Miss Madam Beverly Mens, who said, Minister, will this bring the greatest impact to the people that you serve? Madam Speaker, when we examine the data presented in this very contribution, we see both progress and limitation existing at the same time. We see, for example, that in 2025, Montserrat recorded 14,544 visitors, generating approximately $26.1 million in expenditure, approaching our best pre-pandemic performance of $27 million, even with fewer arrivals. What that tells us, Madam Speaker, is that we are increasing in the value per visitor that we attract to Montserrat. We see a cruise sector that has rebounded with over 27 calls, and so far another 9 expected for the rest of this financial year. Not financial, for the rest of this year, sorry. We have seen new entrants into the market and renewed marine activity, including the return of the Caribbean Trophy Fun Regatta. We see from the BSM or Budget Support Mission last year, structured planning in access with a 3-strand strategy requiring over $12.8 million in year one alone, aimed at increasing seat capacity and driving our visitor expenditure to ISI 44 million annually. We see a tourism development program requesting 8.9 million over 3 years, with clear allocations to improve marketing, product development, training, standards, and still maintenance, all tied to measurable outcomes, including a projected 20% increase in arrivals, generating over 5 million in additional spend. So the data is there, the strategy is there, the intent is there. But Madam Speaker, sad to say, the challenge remains. Because alongside those gains, we still face high access costs that suppress demand. We still face infrastructure gaps that both residents and visitors experience. We still face inconsistencies in service, the absence of enforceable standards and barriers in doing business that slows down investments. We still face a population constraint that limits our ability to execute at the pace required to keep up with today's demand. So the picture is not one of failure, but neither is it one of sufficiency. Madam Speaker, it is also important that we say that clearly, because if we are honest, and we are honest people in this House, if we are honest about the numbers, then we must also be more honest about what they imply. While this budget allows us to maintain what we already have with little room to grow, it does not match the full scale of what is required to unlock the level of growth that we are targeting. And so the responsibility on us becomes even greater. It means that every dollar allocated must work harder for us as a people. Investments in access must translate to increased arrivals and reduce barriers to our entry or to entry here. Investment in product must translate to higher visitor satisfaction and repeat visits across the sector. Investments in marketing must translate into measurable market penetration and conversion. Investments in culture must translate into economic activity, not just preservation. It also means that the government alone cannot carry this weight. It means that the private sector must be able to move faster. It means our diaspora must be engaged more deliberately as investors and partners. It means regional and international partnerships must be leveraged to extend our capacity. And critically, it means we must remove the inefficiencies within our own systems that dilute the impact of the resources or the limited resources that we already have. Madam Speaker, is a famous quote or saying, and my good brother Jenzil always reminds me, government is continuous. The progress we are seeing today is a result of sustained efforts over time. Needless to say that I disagree with my Premier when he says it's been 10 years of stagnation. Might have been 5, 2014 to 2019. But definitely not 2019 to 24 as we are seeing those rewards today. The proof is clear. We, and I say we have inherited solid projects that we are now seeing across the board right now. So we are not about starting from zero. We are building on what was. This budget contributes to that forward movement, but it does not and cannot fully close the gap between the need and the delivery. Colleagues, we have been here before. I have been involved. I have faced periods of extraordinary pressure. And on top of that pressure, Madam Speaker, uncertainty. First, the COVID-19 pandemic, and I know we want to forget that it happened. And then, of course, the fallout from the Ukraine war, or the Russia-Ukraine war. I remember, and we are a very jokey government. I think we appreciate a good joke every now and then. We love a laugh. Humorous, not jokey. Thank you, Madam Darcy. I remember gas stations striking for more money. I remember civil servants protesting for increase in pay. Madam Speaker, that's just 4.5 years ago. Those events placed significant strain on our budget, on our economy, and our systems, and also our ability to deliver. The expectation to perform and to continue delivering never ceased. I mention that, Madam Speaker, simply to place this moment in context, because the nature of governance is that it's never done in an ideal condition. It is done under pressure, with limited resources and in circumstances that we do not control, but we must respond to. As a government, we have the responsibility to act within what is before us, Madam Speaker. I carry some of that responsibility. For the most, in my mind, apart from Dr. Ingrid, for the most demanding portfolios in this honorable House, tourism in particular remains our most scalable economic sector, and culture is the very product we offer to the world. And, I might get cussed for it later, navigating the vast array of diaspora concerns is of paramount to us all in this honorable House. But a product, no matter how strong, cannot sell itself if access is to be restricted. If that is the case, then we must If that is the case, then we must confront the single greatest barrier to the sector's growth: getting people here. The cost of travel to Montserrat is simply too high. It does not reflect the distance, it does not reflect normal market behavior, and in many cases, the final leg into Montserrat costs more than the journey across the Atlantic. This is not sustainable. It is a distortion that is holding back our visitor arrivals, weakening the connection with our diaspora, and ultimately costing this country much needed revenue. Access, Madam Speaker and colleagues, therefore is not a side issue. It is central to everything we are trying to achieve. That is why the completion of our port facility must remain a national priority. It is not just a project on paper. It is the gateway to expand our ferry services, supporting cruise activity, and improving cargo movement. Without it, growth will always be constrained. And while we work to bring people here, Madam Speaker, we must also be honest about what they encounter when they arrive here. The visitor experience at present is not as consistent as it needs to be. That is, of course, if we are being honest. Of course, we are monstrations. We have strong hospitality in many areas, and they must be commended for that service. But there are gaps that we can no longer ignore. Airfare, accommodation pricing, car rental rates are not always aligned with the quality of service that is being offered. That, Madam Speaker, affects our reputation. And I remember a good friend of mine, and I'm sure he don't mind me call his name, but I won't. He says, young man, your name and your reputation is the only thing you would have with you for the rest of your life. So we have to protect our reputation as a people by every possible means. It also discourages repeat visits. We need, therefore, a clear, enforceable tourism standard framework developed in partnership with our tourism authority and all our stakeholders to bring consistency, fairness, and confidence to our product. That conversation naturally brings me to infrastructure, because the experience does not begin at the hotel door or the guest houses or the friends and families that they stay with. It starts the moment that visitor gets through our ports and begin moving through our islands. Road conditions, the reliability of our electricity, and the state of all our key tourism sites all shape how Montserrat is experienced, both by visitors and our own people. Sometimes we talk as if it's just the people who come and experience our roads. We have to remember that our people continue to use these roads every day. Investment in these areas is not optional, and it is not separate from tourism. It is a fundamental to national development. And then we have a budget that must be spread or shared across all these ministries and departments. Madam Speaker, we are very excited for the possibilities of St. George's Hill and the new approach or the new vision it gives us. But we must also pay attention to our heritage. Plymouth in particular is one of the most powerful stories we have to tell. Yet, it continues to deteriorate under environmental pressure and underinvestment. This is not just a cultural loss. It is a missed economic opportunity. We should be thinking urgently and boldly about how we preserve and present that space, using and utilizing modern tools such as the digital interpretation, QR codes, augmented reality, to create that experience that is globally compelling and uniquely ours. You know, every election cycle, all of us put up huge billboards across the country. Nice pictures, well-dressed people on these billboards. And what we're saying at the authority is that something as simple as a billboard that's displayed so that we can show persons exactly what Plymouth was will be an asset. Madam Speaker, beyond preservation, growth will require deliberate diversification. There is real opportunity in the blue economy space, in marine tourism, like diving and yachting, etc., and equally in the green economy through hiking, ecotourism, agricultural or agri-tourism, even zip lines. But unlocking these opportunities depend on the environment we create for the investment. Our private sector must be able to move with clarity and confidence. That means simpler processes, faster approvals, and regulatory systems that enable development rather than delaying it. And if possible, given our context, we want it all in the same place. Because the reality is, doing business in Montserrat remains too complicated. A centralized business registry and more streamlined processes are long overdue. At the same time, we must address the ongoing challenges with correspondent banking through stronger regional and international engagement, while also expanding digital payment options locally to modernize how transactions are conducted. And alongside all of this, we must fix a basic but critical gap: the absence of fully enforced standards in food and accommodation. It continues to undermine our competitiveness and weaken our visitor confidence. This, Madam Speaker, is not an abstract issue. It is how we are judged as a destination. Over this financial year, or as soon as possible, this legislation must be finalized. I'm looking in that direction, but I'm not pointing. It must be finalized. And also enforced. This is the aim of our Montserrat Tourism Authority. Madam Speaker, all of these issues point us back to a single unifying priority: access. Our Access Montserrat framework is built on 3 pillars. First, the strengthening of St. Martin Air Gateway to improve both regional and international connectivity through more integrated and visible routes. And we have to commend the Access Department and the Premier's Office for the work that has been carried out in establishing and getting this gateway back up and running. Second, we have to continue to reinforce the Antigua Air Corridor to ensure consistency through stronger performance-based arrangements and more resilient fleet operations. And third, establishing a year-round ferry, a bridge that can move passengers, cargo, and support major events, especially in St. Patrick's and Christmas, with consistency and capacity. These, my good people, are not abstract ambitions. They are targeted, practical interventions designed to increase access, and not just access to the country, but the capacity by at least 35%, and to drive meaningful growth in visitor expenditure by 2029. Madam Speaker, we cannot access or address access without addressing the barriers that are once again placing real pressure on our already fragile air access with regulations. And note, I said we. This is not unfamiliar territory. We have been here before also. In 2016, when the regulations reduced our runway and disrupted ultimately the suspension of Winair and its services. And we are seeing, sad to say, similar strange emerging again in 2026 under the weight of new regulatory demands. Madam Speaker, my background is aviation. Fortunately or unfortunately, I have the knowledge of knowing load sheets, trim sheets, and what it takes for these planes to take off from here. And sad to say also, what I'm hearing does not equate to what I know, the capacity of what these planes are. Comrades, residents, at this critical phase in our development, Montserrat cannot afford to repeat our history, where seemingly well-intentioned regulations without sufficient context for small island realities end up restricting rather than enabling our connectivity. We have to push for a full review of these regulations. We must ensure that safety and compliance do not come at the cost of our survival, our mobility, and our economic resilience. Our air access is too critical to be continually constrained in ways that do not reflect our size, our vulnerability, and our dependence on reliable connectivity, and quite frankly, do not reflect the capabilities of the Twin Otter. And again, I am speaking as a man who was qualified. I'm sorry? Not sure what you want me to repeat. But I said our air access is too critical to be continually constrained in ways that do not reflect our size, our vulnerability, and our dependence on reliable connectivity. And quite frankly, again, as I said, as a man who have worked in that industry and prepared load sheets for these very same planes, do not reflect the capabilities of the Twin Otter, tourism, development, and culture. Madam Speaker, our Tourism Authority continues to deliver strong results even under serious constraints, including training, product development, and market expansion. And sometimes we are tempted to confuse normal day-to-day operations with industry and growth and development. There are some things we do just because that's what we have to do. At the Budget Support Mission, we proposed ISI 8.9 million in the Tourism Development Program. This would have generated returns exceeding this investment through increased visitor spend in the very first year. Montserrat's cultural heritage is a unique global asset. It combines geological, African, Irish, volcanic, musical, and also creative legacies. Cultural industries are not supplementary. They are central to competitiveness, identity, and economic growth. The Montserrat Arts Council has delivered key programs in music, festivals, training, cultural preservation, despite limited resources. Our future priorities include an international music festival, a national steel band orchestra, expanded regional participation, and a cultural policy. Festivals such as St. Patrick's, Christmas, and Calabash, including our Literary Fest, Culture Heads Day, St. John's Day, require a structured development strategy focused on youth development, marketing, production quality, infrastructure, and international reach if Montserrat is to remain competitive across all the other islands competing in that space. So I said this plainly. I support this budget because it advances the work. I support this budget because it provides the resources to continue building on the strategies already in motion. And I support it with a clear expectation that gaps, or the gaps we have identified through data, through observation, and through our lived experience, will be addressed with urgency, deliberate action, and again, I'm looking this way but pointing that way, with any fiscal space that may becomes available throughout the financial year. Madam Speaker, I want to place on record my appreciation to the Montserrat Tourism Authority, its board, and the full team, to the Office of the Premier, to the Montserrat Arts Council, its leadership, its staff, and every cultural practitioner who builds our heritage under very difficult conditions, to every sponsor for their cultural sponsorships, to every private sector promoter. I really don't know how we would do these festivals without these people, and I really wish we would recognize them and say thank you for their service. To every operator, every vendor and guide who invests daily in the visitor experience, and to every Montserratian at home and in the diaspora who holds this island in their heart. Madam Speaker, I commend this budget to this honorable House, and I rest and concede the floor. Thank you very much.
I recognize the Honorable Parliamentary Secretary Hickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My job today is pretty much easy and straightforward.
Support the budget, that's it.
Madam Speaker, honorable members of this House, I rise today in full support of the government's 2026-2027 budget. Before I proceed, I'm reminded of the words of Scripture from Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18. Where there's no vision, the people perish. Madam Speaker, vision is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Vision gives people hope, gives direction, and it gives purpose. In a small island developing state like Montserrat, vision is what anchors belief in our future. A country must offer its people more than survival, Madam Speaker. It must offer them a sense of possibility. This is precisely what this budget does. Madam Speaker, today I choose to remain hopeful. Across the island, we are not just hearing promise, we are seeing progress. Each flicker of light at the new hospital facility, especially when you're approaching from the lookout area, the northern side, suggests progress. Access granted by the Bellum Road signs signals progress. Madam Speaker, you go down into Drummond's, you're seeing the new housing project that has been built there. That is a sign of progress. More money is allocated for key safeguarding projects, suggests progress. Educational opportunities through partnerships, especially with institutions such as the Monroe University to strengthen our workforce, suggests progress. Madam Speaker, these are not abstract ideas. These are real, tangible signs, a beacon of light for the people of Montserrat. Madam Speaker, as I listened to the budget presentation by the Premier, it became clear that this is not a budget built on theory. It is grounded in real projects, real investment, and real outcomes. It is a budget that is working, a budget that is delivering, a budget that is moving Montserrat forward. But, Madam Speaker, we are fully aware of our realities, and it's the realities of living in Montserrat. We are a small, import-dependent economy. We face geographic and volcanic constraints. We operate within a limited population base. And yes, Madam Speaker, we remain vulnerable to unpredictable global markets. But, Madam Speaker, this government refuses to accept limitations as destiny. Instead, we are building a modern, diversified, and resilient economy. And that is not accidental. That is leadership. Madam Speaker, no nation develops without strong infrastructure. And this budget reflects the understanding through continued investment in road rehabilitation and expansion, modernizing of public infrastructure, and we see what's happening to the cultural center, strengthening utilities and energy systems. We saw what happened in the Palm Loop, and now it's in the Drummonds and Lookout area. Madam Speaker, infrastructure is not just cement and steel. I am well poised to speak about that. It is the foundation, Madam Speaker, which opportunity is built. Every road connects to people. And people, to the people, it's a possibility to do something. Every facility improves service delivery. Every investment, Madam Speaker, strengthens national resilience. Madam Speaker, at the heart of this budget is people. Development is not only economic, it is human. This government continues to invest in healthcare, education, agriculture, social protection, sports. We are ensuring, Madam Speaker, that our children receive quality education, our elderly are protected, our most vulnerable are supported, and not partially supported, but supported in full. This is what responsible governance looks like. Madam Speaker, our young people must see a future here in Montserrat first, not elsewhere, but here. They are not just the future, they are the present force of innovation and change. Madam Speaker, as a government, we are preparing them for not for dependence, but for empowerment. I will repeat, we are preparing them not for dependence, but for empowerment. We are not leaving anyone behind. Madam Speaker, resilience is not optional, it is essential. This budget, as we have listened to, is grounded in fiscal responsibility. We are not, Madam Speaker, engaging in reckless spending. We are prioritizing efficiency, accountability, and delivering results. Trust is built when people see their resources being used wisely and delivering real outcomes. Madam Speaker, one such case is the project down at the Drummonds, and we will continue to see real outcomes. Madam Speaker, this budget is not about politics, it is about progress. The people of Montserrat are not interested in noise. They are interested in results. The reality is this government is delivering. Hard to say no to that. Through infrastructure, through economic planning, through social investment. Madam Speaker, the implementation of these projects provides the impetus, and it strengthens my personal commitment to work even harder alongside my colleagues. Madam Speaker, we want to build a better Montserrat. We want a Montserrat that access is seamless, agriculture and tourism would drive and diversify our economy. Opportunities, Madam Speaker, are not limited, but expanding. And where every citizen can see, feel, and benefit from national development. Madam Speaker, we are also building resilience, not just for today, but for generations to come. We understand that climate change is real, and it is immediate. Madam Speaker, this government is responding with deliberate and forward-thinking action. And it's action through investment in renewable energy, protection of our natural resources, strengthening, developing, and implementing comprehensive disaster preparedness strategies and programs. Madam Speaker, resilience is not simply about reacting to crisis. It is about preparing for them, mitigating their impact, and ensuring that our people, our infrastructure, and our economy can withstand and recover stronger. For a country like Montserrat, resilience is not optional, it is essential. Madam Speaker, this government is not afraid to build, not afraid to plan for the long term, not afraid to deliver results. Madam Speaker, a budget should not divide its people, it should guide us. This is not a political budget, this is a national budget. As representatives of the people, our duty is clear. It's clear that we need to support what is right, to question what must be improved, and to always serve. Madam Speaker, I strongly believe that public funds must deliver public value. And for these reasons, with a clear sense of confidence in this budget, I stand in full support, and I bring this budget to this House. I thank you.
Recognize the Honorable Molkia.
Madam Speaker, I rise in pursuant to Standing Orders 22, VI 6, to move this Honorable House to now adjourn to Wednesday, April 22nd at 10 a.m. to allow members of the opposition sufficient time, Madam Speaker, to prepare for their contribution to the budget debate. Madam Speaker, this request is both reasonable and necessary. The budget before this Honorable House is not a simple document. It comprises not only estimates exceeding 200 plus pages, Madam Speaker, but also detailed financial data and the Honorable Premier's speech, which spans over 56 pages, that kept us here for over 3 hours yesterday, outlining the policy direction and the priorities of government. And then, for him to turn around, Madam Speaker, to say that his speech means nothing. It means he consistently engages in misleading the people, Madam Speaker, and has wasted the Parliament time, Madam Speaker.
Just a second. I recognize the Honorable Premier. Could you take your mic, please?
Madam Speaker, on a point of order.
Let me hear the point of order, please.
It is not within the remit of the opposition to determine when budget is concluded. And I did not understand the context in which her speech is being made. Is it a contribution to the budget statement or what? I'm confused.
Thank you. I was also, because you made reference, Honorable Molkia, to Standing Order 22, I was trying to see where your presentation, coincides with 22. So it has a few sections. I was trying to read which one you might have been referring to. So could you enlighten me there, please?
Madam Speaker, I started off by indicating Standing Order 22 VI, which is clear. And for point of clarification, Can the Honorable Premier point to me which part in the standing orders which indicated that we cannot refer to standing orders? 22 VI.
So your argument is what?
Madam Speaker, let me reinforce my motion to move the Honorable House to now adjourn to Wednesday, 22nd April 2026, to allow members of the opposition sufficient time to prepare for the contributions to the budget debate.
Okay, and that, Honorable Romeo, could you take your mic off, please? Your VI, standing order 22 VI, does allow for the motion on the adjournment. Yes, it does. I recognize the Honorable Romeo.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion for the adjournment of the Honourable House till tomorrow morning as specified by the Honourable Mulcair. Thank you.
So, members, it has been moved and seconded that the House adjourns until Wednesday for debate of the budget. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. I think the nays have it. The nays have it.
For a point of clarification, Madam Speaker.
Yes, let me hear you.
Can we ask for division because I'm not clear in terms of who said, to me the nays sound louder.
Okay, Honorable Mulcair. Madam Clerk, could you please?
Sorry. Honorable Premier Meade.
Nay.
Honorable Minister Hector.
Nay.
Honorable Minister Osborne.
Nay.
Honorable Minister Dr. Buffon.
Aye.
Honorable Parliamentary Secretary Buffon.
Aye.
Honorable Parliamentary Secretary Hickson.
Nay.
Honorable Attorney General.
Nay.
Honorable Financial Secretary.
Nay.
Honorable Mulcair.
Aye.
Honorable Romeo.
Aye.
So we have 6 ayes and 4 ayes and 6 nays.
Okay, so the result of the division is that 4 members voted nay and 6 members voted aye, so I think the ayes have it. The nays have it, sorry. The nays
Yes.
takes the vote. Honorable Mulcair, I recognize your mic is on.
Madam Speaker, I want to raise several points of clarification.
No, not at this time.
So,
The
no
vote
point, Madam
has
Speaker, the
vote
opposition-
has already been taken.
I
So
heard
there is
that.
no debate at this
I was
time.
not debating. I'm asking for points of clarification.
So
Am I allowed, yes or no?
let me hear you. Let me hear you. No, let me hear you. Let me hear you. Go ahead. Go
Yes,
ahead.
because I want to put further clarification. Anyway, it's okay.
Okay, so the nays got the vote. So therefore, we will proceed because your request for adjournment has been negatived. I recognize the Honorable Premier.
Madam Speaker, I move for an adjournment of this Honourable House for lunch and we'll resume in 2 hours' time.
Do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder for I recognize the Honorable Minister of Agriculture.
Madam Speaker, I'll second the motion for 3 o'clock, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and I recognize the Honorable Malkia.
Madam Speaker,
Are you speaking on the
I
motion?
rise on a point of clarification.
On the motion that was just put? For adjournment for lunch?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
Or would I be allowed to speak on the adjournment, briefly?
I think you, just give me a second, let me refer to standing orders. Because speaking on the adjournment should come with notice.
Madam Speaker.
In the public interest?
Yes, in the public interest, Madam Speaker.
Let me hear you. I will determine if I should allow you to continue. Yes, let me hear you.
Madam Speaker, I did ask if I can speak briefly on the adjournment.
Adjournment. So that's what I'm saying. Let me hear you now.
Oh, good. So, Madam Speaker, in closing, I want to say that based on the common parliamentary phrase, which indicates, Madam Speaker, we know that government must have its say. We know that. But the opposition must also have its say. And it signifies in a democracy that it requires ensuring that opposition has the right to debate and to criticize, even though the ruling party ultimately has a mandate to implement its agenda. If this is not upheld, Madam Speaker, then therefore the members of the opposition see no need to be here. This is a democracy. We should be allowed to debate properly, to hear. We had to listen to 3 ministers, 2 parliamentary secretaries, and you mean the opposition, Madam Speaker, doesn't have the opportunity to present, to have the time to go through and analyze, to present. The Honourable Premier has been on both sides of the House, Madam Speaker, and he knows what the rules are. He should not come here to try to bully the opposition members.
Excuse me, I think you're out of order to say that the Premier is bullying.
Madam Speaker is bullying. The Honourable Reuben tried to speak yesterday and he was shut down.
No, I think you're out of order. And please take your seat. I recognize the Honourable Romeo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would I be able to say something on the adjournment as well, Madam Speaker?
It's becoming habitual now, but yes, go ahead.
Habitual. Madam Speaker?
Yes, go ahead.
Are we habitual?
Madam Speaker, this, I believe, action we're taking is in keeping with the entire budget speech that we heard. And I want to refer to section 45 of the budget speech. Madam Speaker, in general terms, we draw guidance on matters of governance from the Westminster parliamentary system and the principles of practice and practices of Her Majesty's government. In that regard, I wish to remind every one of us of what is stated in HMG's Ministerial Code at paragraph 1.5 of section A. And I quote, this is the Honourable Premier speaking, serving the country and the public in the ministerial office is a privilege. Ministers should be courteous and professional in all their dealings and treat those with whom they come in contact with consideration and respect. Working relationships, including with civil servants, ministerial and parliamentary colleagues, and parliamentary staff, should be proper and appropriate. Harassing, bullying, or other inappropriate or discriminatory behavior wherever it takes place, is not consistent with the ministerial code and will not be tolerated. Madam Speaker, last year we were forced to speak within 1 day. Normally, I've been in this House for 15 years, and we're given 2 days at least, or we're given 1 day. This year, we're given 0 days. What is the Honourable Premier going to do next time? That is why we have to make a stand today and insist and encourage the government, who has spoken over and over about one government, working with the opposition and the people, to, for the first time, demonstrate that they mean what they say. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to ask you, where was any inappropriate or discriminatory behavior, any harassing, bullying, anything like that taking place? However, I'm not done. However, I wish to point you to Standing Order 66-3, which gives the Minister of Finance the privilege to move the motion to a time for the debate. Only the Minister of Finance has that authority. Also, the debate on the second reading of the bill shall be confined to the financial and economic state of Montserrat and the general principles of government policy and administration as indicated in the bill and the estimates. The bill and the estimates were shared a week ago. The debate is not on the budget speech that was presented. And on that basis, he is allowed, the Honorable Premier Minister of Finance is allowed to ask for the adjournment at a specific time. So I will now put the question for the adjournment for lunch. It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable House stands adjourned for lunch until 3 o'clock this afternoon. All those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. This Honorable House now stands adjourned for lunch until 3 o'clock this afternoon.